Ohio gozaimasu, me hearties, and welcome back to the ship going smelly. I am your host, Captain Chip. This is me co-host, co-captain, Fetid.
We forgot we were on the going smelly.
Oh, well, you named it, so you should remember. Anyway, we're back to talk about some more of that there One Piece. What the wonderful, wonderful thing it is. Show, manga, everything you could want. So this time we talked about the second box set of the manga, as released by Viz Media, that covers everything from when the Straw Hats first find out about Jaya and the Sky Islands and all that jazz, all the way up to the end of after Eni's lobby, and they're about to go off and find Fishman Jishman Island, or whatever it is.
Indeed.
I get the feeling that they don't get there very fast because the... So, I don't know why Viz split it up this way, but in this box set there is one extra volume at the end that is like after Eni's lobby, and it's the beginning of Thriller Bark, and they just put that volume in there, I guess. They put
the beginning of Thriller Bark in there, or the bit where they actually board the Thousand Sun?
Well, okay, so the bit where they board the Thousand Sunny is in the second to last volume in this box set. The actual last volume in this box set starts with Ace confronting Blackbeard, and then the rest of it is Thriller Bark.
That's a weird one. I would consider Ace confronting Blackbeard to kind of be in the middle, but okay.
I feel like they could have left that that volume out and just had it be one fewer volumes in a box set, but I guess they didn't want that.
Yeah, I feel like they could have just gotten away with putting that in the next one, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever. Before we start with the actual story, I just want to bring up something, because... So, something you get as a manga reader that I'm noticing now that I'm reading it again, that I didn't really notice the first time round, is that as someone who's properly caught up on the anime, so I'm properly caught up on the manga as well, but the anime is actually quite close to the manga now. It's nearly caught up. And you won't have met some of these characters yet, but in Chapter 218, where we're starting, there is one of Oda's legendary cover stories. And it's called Hachi's Walk on the Sea Floor, the sudden grand opening of the legendary octopus fritter shop, where we get to see Hachi, the octopus, obviously from way back when.
Like early East Blue stuff.
So, people might wonder, well, why are we seeing this guy again? And why is he with a Rastafarian starfish? And this is actually going to come up later. This is not just canon, it's very important to the story.
Okay.
So I would like you to actually keep this particular one in mind.
I will try to do so. Okay. I mean, I assume that, some fishmen we've seen before will come back when they go to Fishman Island eventually. But, okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, so, Robin's just joined the crew. Well,
yes.
Kind of. But she's just inserted herself into the crew.
She's tagging along.
But this is one of my favourite parts of this particular arc, the Jaya arc. I mean, we're covering Jaya through Eni's lobby?
And post Eni's lobby, so the stuff with Grandpa Monkey. Boy.
What could you be talking about?
Grandpa Monkey Garp Boy.
I have not heard of this character yet in this particular podcast. Perhaps he will come up later. But yeah, so Robin's trying to win over the crew. And I think this is really, really good. Because first of all, let's be honest, Luffy is immediately on board.
Oh, yeah.
He's just, new friend, cool. She then wins over Chopper and No, sorry, not Usopp just yet, but she wins over Chopper and Luffy by tickling them.
Yeah.
Usopp is interrogating her and asks what her secrets, like what her specialty is, what her skill is. And she replies with assassination.
Yes, I love that line.
Which is surprisingly not wrong. Usopp's right. She is too dangerous.
Yeah, she's pretty good at that killing stuff.
But he's immediately won over by... God, I love... Robin's power is my favourite in the entire series.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Because there's so much opportunity for humour. Including Luffy pretending to be Chopper with her arms sticking out of his head.
Yes.
Which immediately wins over Usopp as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sanji was a lost cause from the beginning.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But
even Nami gets along with her, fairly well from the start.
No, not quite. Nami pulls this sort of not bitchy, just I know what you're up to. Like, we're both girls. I know what this is. But Robin's prepared for her. She brought some gems with her from Crocodile Stash.
That's right.
This is one of the places... I mean, I've already told you about the GA arc, which I would like to cover briefly.
Yes, definitely. I just watched that today.
Cool. It's really good.
Yeah.
But this is one of the times where I really... A lot of people will say the anime is terrible, which I highly disagree with. The animation... I mean, it's made by Toei. Of course the animation is terrible. Although, the current season, I won't say exactly what it's called, but the current season, the animation is actually fucking incredible.
Okay.
But the voice actors have always been fantastic for One Piece.
Yeah, I mean, just in the episodes I saw today, I'd, immediately clicked with them. It's like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected them to sound like.
I mean, aside from Joey's Boston accent slapped onto Sanji's face in the 4Kids, this... Just... Daisuke One-sama! It's fantastic. The voice actors for One Piece are incredible.
Yeah, they're really good.
So yeah, at this point, the only two characters who aren't on board, really... Well, the only character, really, is Zoro. So yeah, that's where we're at in terms of the crew dynamic. And I think that's important to establish at the start of this. Yeah, especially since we've just lost what everyone thought was going to be the next Straw Hat.
Yeah, of course, movie.
Okay.
Oh. Still. So yeah, that's the crew we've got at the moment. And suddenly a ship drops out of the sky.
Yeah, a ship just comes plopping down.
A little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, and oh boy, it's all fucked up.
Oh yeah, that's it did not survive its landing.
And also, I love anything man can imagine. This is the thing that comes up as the ship's falling down. It's like a quote from a One Piece world philosopher. Anything man can imagine is a possibility in reality. Willie Caron, physicist. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Willie Caron. But yeah, ship from the sky? What?
Yeah.
What is a fish, man? Who cares now? There's a ship upstairs.
Yeah. And so yeah, the Straw Hats go to see what's up with that. And they investigate the wreckage, and Nami notices, oh, hang on a minute, the log pose just changed direction. Now it's pointing straight upwards.
And also there's a motorbike. Yeah. So Robin explains, our log pose has been captured by a sky island. And that's quite That's quite cool.
That's a bit of a
an interesting
revelation
concept.
to find out that there's, stuff in the sky.
Yeah. So we move on to the next chapter, and immediately we're hit with the monkey boys.
Oh,
Screeching
yes.
monkey boys.
Yes. First up is Masira. He's a big gorilla boy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mr. Kong has been working out, and also now screeches. He can echolocate ships, apparently, which is pretty cool.
Wait, is it Masira that can do that? I thought that was Shoujo that did that.
Oh, I might. Yeah, I think I'm mixing the two up. But yeah,
Either way, they're both salvagers.
Yeah, they're salvagey boys.
Yeah.
So Luffy and the gang, they want to go to the Sky Island, but first they've got to salvage the ship because I mean, a ship's just come from the sky. There could be something pretty cool on there.
Yeah. So maybe information on how to get up to the sky.
Yeah. So they plop barrels on their heads and they sink down. And then here comes a big ship full of monkey.
Yep.
And yeah, I did not like them at first.
Gotta be honest, kind of same. Yeah, like, not a great first impression, but they grew on me very quickly.
Very quickly, especially with him being like... He's just kind of a bro.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He's pretty cool. I like him now.
Yeah. It's like, at first you think he's going to be some kind of antagonist, but then he just sort of after the initial confrontation, he's just like, oh hey, I guess you guys are just, hanging out being cool, not salvaging or anything. That's fine, as long as not salvaging.
We also get a line here. So the salvagey boys go down to the wreckage, and they say, hey, some of us have been beat up real bad. There's got to be someone down there. And he says, what? Did a Neptunian get them? Now, I mean, we know of fishmen, but what in heck is a Neptunian? And that's also something that's going to come up later. Again, I don't like not being able to say why, but there is legitimate reason for people in this world to call them Neptunians, not just fishmen.
Okay. I'll try and keep that in mind as well.
And it has to do with there being many different factions of fishmen in this world. So, let's see. So they've salvaged the ship. They found out Luffy was on there, and then the crew, they have to make a pretty quick getaway from Monkey Boy because he screeched real loud.
Oh yes. He's not quiet.
So they come to Mocktown. And Mocktown...
also I just want to mention how they escape from Monkey Boy is that one of these Neptunians, or otherwise very, very, very big things, I think it's a turtle, it just eats Masira's ship. It just chomps it up in one go.
No, that's actually a sea king.
Okay.
That's not a Neptune.
Okay, I was getting those confused.
So, Mocktown.
Yes.
It's not a very friendly place.
No, it's a bit of a rogue town, you might say.
Yeah, where everyone seems to mock them for having dreams. Apparently, everyone on this island is a nihilist.
Yeah, especially Big Boy Bellamy. He's the most nihilistic of them all.
Big Boy Bellamy, yeah. So before we get to Big Boy Bellamy, Luffy comes up against a man who very much enjoys cherry pies. This rather round man with the black beard. Yeah. So the black bearded gentleman, he and Luffy, they kind of put their differences away after Luffy comes up against Bellamy, and Bellamy's like, ha ha ha, You believe in things. So
Just imagine that.
Luffy does a really cool moment. Nami doesn't quite get it, but the rest of them do. They
Yes.
immediately get it. He's taking... this is obviously a parallel to Shanks,
Yes.
when he went up against the mountain bandits. So Luffy lets them beat him up. He tells the entire crew not to fight back, which Bellamy is quite... He's alright with that. He's definitely fine.
Oh, yeah.
Chucking Luffy straight out of a window. And then Blackbeard comes out, and... Well, a guy with a black beard comes out.
I think we can clear the air on this one. Yes, he's Blackbeard.
And he says, wow, that was pretty cool of you, my dude. I also believe in dreams, and Sky Island, it's a cool place. You should go there.
Keep on dreaming, dude.
And then there's quite an interesting line that sparked a lot of theories in the community.
Oh?
So it kind of seems like things might come to blows with this guy at some point. And this gets not quite resolved, it just doesn't happen, because the crew, they never make a move, and Nami doesn't quite know why again. And Zoro says, says, there were more of them there. There are multiple, at the very least, presences there, who we never saw. Obviously, we didn't know if this was maybe some friends of Blackbeard, or perhaps, as one of the theory goes, perhaps Blackbeard has a fruit that makes him technically multiple people. And that has some very interesting implications for later in the story.
Interesting.
Which you will actually come up across very soon once you start reading the... well, not very soon, but quite soon once you start reading the next box set.
Okay.
Yeah, so Luffy says... sorry, no, I'm going back again.
I think this is the point where Robin tells them, oh, I found out that there's this guy, Mont Blanc Cricket, who might be able to help.
Yeah, so they go to this guy's house, this Mont Blanc Cricket, and they're like, wow, that's a palace. But no, it's just a big cardboard cutout of a house that's just half chopped down the middle.
Yeah.
And that's pretty weird. But Mont Blanc
that was a neat
Cricket,
visual. I like that.
Mont Blanc Cricket, he's got some interesting friends. These interesting friends being two particular big monkey boys.
Oh, wouldn't you know it? They're his bros.
Yeah, and being his bros, they are his bros because he also likes diving down to the bottom of the ocean, and wouldn't you know it, here he comes from the bottom of the ocean now, and oh, ouch, oh no, my liver, oh, I've got the bems. Chopper treats him, and...
Yeah, turns out it's not a good idea to go deep sea diving just, like, naked.
At least if you're not a monkey, apparently.
Yeah. Well, they're not actually monkey men. They are human.
Yeah, but come on. They're big old monkey boys.
Yeah.
But what's this? They've just made these new friends, but... Oh, Bellamy, he finds out. Mont Blanc Cricket is looking for gold. He wants that gold, but why is Mont Blanc Cricket looking for gold? And this is where we get introduced to the biggest bro of bros. Not just the biggest bro of bros, but the bros of bros of bros. They are some real good boys.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Mont Blanc Cricket is actually related to a dude called Nolan. Mont Blanc Nolan, who many years in the past he was executed for lying to the king about City of Gold.
Yes.
Oh, there's lots of gold there. It's a shiny place, and he wants to find it again to prove that his grandpappy's grandpappy was not alive.
Yeah. Well, specifically, he doesn't actually care if his grandpappy's grandpappy was a liar or not. He just wants to find out either way.
Yeah. So,
and apparently, this is a tale that's been passed down in the North Blue, which is here we learn this is where Sanji grew up. Is in the North Blue.
Yes. So we actually get a description of the different blues at some. Not in the story. Well, we do get a little bit in the story, but Oda has said that of the blues, the East Blue, where they started out, is by far the calmest. Like, this is the kiddie playground for pirates.
Yeah.
The North Blue being pretty darn tough. The South Blue, it's a rough and tumble place. And the West Blue is... the West Blue is not nice. And if I remember rightly, the West Blue is actually where Shanks is from.
Seem to remember something like that.
So, yeah. The explorer, he's a liar, but maybe not. So this guy's going down for gold, but Mont Blanc Cricket, the last boss of the Monkey Mountain Allied Force.
Yes.
He fights Bellamy for the gold. And Bellamy, oh good lord, it does not go well for Cricket.
No.
Because...
Bellamy's got them springy legs.
Yeah, what is this? There is a second Boingy Boy.
Oh.
And this Boingy Boy, he go real fast. He punch real good.
Oh, yeah.
So, Luffy, he's really not happy about this. He's been friends with this guy a whole 2 minutes. He can't let this happen.
Yeah.
So he goes back into... absolutely fuck shit up, and this is a brutal fight.
Oh yeah.
Good lord.
I love how this goes.
Yeah, so it conveys it pretty well, because Oda, his drawing style, his art style is very expressive. He likes to... he kind of brings animation principles into still art, in that he likes squash and stretch.
Yeah.
So he often makes things very, very expressive, to the point where they're not quite... they're definitely not anatomically correct, but it makes it a lot more impactful.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think this fight is even more brutal in the anime, because that last punch... good lord!
You say last punch. In the manga, I don't know how it was in the anime, but in the manga it was literally just one punch. Like, only one blow was traded.
Yeah, Bellamy does quite a few, but I'm talking about, like, there is a very definitive last punch, and it comes from Luffy.
Yes.
And just crunch straight into his face.
Oh yeah.
It turns out it's not all that good being a Boingy Boy if all of you isn't Boingy. So Luffy, he's the superior Boingy Boy. So he's gotten the gold back. He's off to go back to Cricket to say, "Hey, I got your gold."
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Nami's been going through a book that they found, the log of the ship. He's been going through it with the Cricket boys, and Cricket decides to show Nolan's book, Nolan's log, and this is where, we only get a hint of it here, but I love the relationship between Nolan and Kalgara. It's so good. It's fantastic. And from this log, he finds out, hey, the log pose doesn't work, it's broken. I mean, well, it's not broken, it's pointing to the Sky Island, but that's all the way up there. How are you going to navigate in the meantime? And there's this big dickhead bird. The South Bird.
The South Bird.
Oh, I hate him and I love him at the same time. If ever a creature was a goblin with wings, this is it.
It just loves pointing south and hates people.
I love. There's a point. I don't remember if it's in the manga, but there's a point where once they capture the South Bird, which gives them all kinds of hell, it really does not want to go to the Sky Island.
No.
But there's a point where Luffy forces it to turn its head around.
Yes, that was in the manga too.
Like straight back. Oh, I love it.
There's another point as well where, like, in an act of defiance, it tried to turn its head, to face not south, but it just couldn't take it and had to face south again.
So, there's another thing. Well, actually, no, I can bring this up later. Never mind.
Okay. Okay.
So
while they've been getting the South Bird, Cricket and his monkey boys have been fixing up their ship to be airworthy.
Yeah. So the Going Merry, she's now a chicken, and she's a fine-looking chicken at that.
Oh yeah.
She's got some cool wings. She's got a big load of iron on her, and the reason for this iron is because, hey, how are you going to get up to a Sky Island? You could try and find some way around it, but you never know where the entrance might be in the world. It could be all the way at the other end. And it turns out later on that there actually was another place that they could have gotten up. But the death rate for the cruise is pretty much a guarantee that on your way up you're going to lose half of your people. Like, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You've got to be Roger level to get up there.
Okay.
So they've got to go up the knock-up stream.
Yes.
And the knock-up stream, it's not something you want to mess with.
No, it's like a giant underwater geyser that spews you straight up, and hundreds of feet into the sky.
Yeah, imagine having the ocean thrown at you. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So they're getting ready. They want to go to this knock-up stream. Only Luffy is, well, Zoro. He's Zoro. He's always up for. He's not always up for what Luffy wants to do, but he respects the captain. So he's pretty much the only one who is all right with the idea of getting the sea thrown at them. The rest of them, they are not happy. But they get to the place where the knock-up stream is going to show up, and oh no, what is this? The man with the black beard. Blackbeard is here, and he wants to kill them all.
Oh dear. Well,
so it's real lucky in that case that Blackbeard, it turns out, has a crew, so that kind of explains why they said that there was more than one of them earlier. But again, we never see this crew in that particular section. So this crew consists
sure would be a shame if that knock-up stream knocked, Luffy and crew up and away before Blackbeard got to do anything.
Yeah. So this crew consists of a spooky horseboy, a wrestler, and a sniper. And they really want to kill him for unknown reasons as of yet. But they get saved at the last second by the knock-up stream. And Blackbeard, he's all right with that. He's a pirate. He's pretty happy that these guys get to go on another adventure. He's like, wee ha ha, let's get them next time.
Yeah. And actually, we do find out. Well, we kind of find out why they wanted to defeat Luffy and his crew. Because there is a quick aside to the I'm going to attempt to pronounce this, the Marie Joie.
Marie Joie.
Marie Joie. There we are.
Yeah, it's French. Everything to do with the world nobles assumes the French pronunciation.
Okay.
They're sort of the aristocrat metaphor.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a little thing where some high-ranking officials of the world government and the 7 warlords of the sea are discussing, hey, what should we do now that Crocodile's no longer with us?
Yeah, they're like, well, it's the 7 warlords of the sea. We can't have 6 of them. That's not good for the brand. So we got to find a new one real quick.
And then someone comes in and says, hey, how about Blackbeard? And they just go, literally, whomst?
Yeah, and then in this same scene, and this is quite a bit forward, but it's still part of the same thing, and it's kind of parallel to their adventures on Giant. Yeah. So, it's not much of a... It's not really a spoiler. There's this guy, he comes crunching in, and he's like, hey, elect my captain for your new guy. And there's a real spooky boy there. He is controlling people.
Yeah.
And he's quite a flamboyant dude. He's got some nifty sunglasses and a great big boa.
Yes, that guy.
And this guy is Don Quixote Doflamingo. And I don't want to give away any of the reason why, but he is one of the massive fan favorite villains in this series.
Okay. I do know at least that he comes back in a big way later. So
a big way.
Yeah,
he's huge for the story. So keep an eye on him, and in particular, keep an eye on. He's controlling people. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, they've gotten knocked up onto this big old island, and, well, they're on a sea of clouds.
Yes.
And this sea of clouds it's pretty big, and there's a whole bunch of broken-ass ships on it.
Yeah.
So they're like, ooh, this is spooky, let's find a place with not so many dead people. And they see a big old gate with a road made out of clouds.
Yeah.
They go,
but before they can get to it, they get attacked by a mysterious masked man.
Yes, a mysterious masked man with wings. And
yes.
This mysterious masked man with wings, he appears to be quite... His silhouette is very similar to something we've seen earlier. When the Monkey Boys... When the crew was escaping from the Monkey Boys, the big reason that they could get away is because there was a huge, spooky, giant figure on the horizon.
Yes.
A group of winged individuals with spears. And... Hey, here's a wingy boy with a spear. Well, that's
not quite as big as the other ones, but certainly around.
So, in comes a guy on his Pegasus. You can call
Pegasus
it
in massive air quotes.
And this is a horse that's eaten the bird fruit, the Tori no Mi.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was.
Sorry.
Fruit.
Yeah. And has consequently become what? Gondor, the guy who. Gonfall. Gonfall.
Yeah.
Calls a Pegasus, but it's not. This thing is as much a Pegasus as I am.
It's a horrific chicken horse abomination.
But he says, hey, I'm a real cool fighter, and you guys, you're really high up, you've not learned how to breathe yet, you're babbies again. So just blow this whistle, and I'll come run in, I'm a good boy. And they're like, cool, so let's head up to this gate now.
Yes.
And in the gate, there's an old lady, a gatekeeper, who tells them that there's... I think it was 1,000,000,000 extol per person
Yes, that's right.
is the price to get into what we find out is Sky Island. Except it's not called Sky Island up here, it's called Skypiea. And there's a reason for this. It's because there are actually multiple Sky Islands. Sky Island is actually a class of island.
Right, okay.
So this particular one is Skypiea, and it's where the Skypeans live. And these Skypeans, they've got a god. He's not happy with tourists. He wants to build a big old wall and make the tourists pay for it.
Oh no.
And the price for that is 1,000,000,000 extol. And Nami, she's not having any of that. She's like,
especially since they have no idea what an extol even is.
Yeah, so she's like, well, I'm definitely not gonna pay that, and you can't make me. And the person's like, oh, you don't have to.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, why didn't you say this already? So they just go on up. And what do you know? This old lady, she's an informant, she's a government spy, she calls God and she's like, these guys, they climbed over, they're not allowed. Come and smite. So they're on Sky Island now, and it's a paradise. It's exactly what you would think.
And I need to mention. Okay, so in the last box set, I was commenting on how, how normal Nami looks for the most part. She has fairly realistic proportions compared to the boys in the group. The moment they touch down on Skypiea, the exact chapter when they do it, she becomes a pencil with 2 basketballs attached.
Yeah, this is because Oda, I mean, you might have noticed already, but Oda's not particularly interested in anatomy. His big goal is he wants to express character through his drawings as wildly as possible. So, for him, yeah, he likes big boobs. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But there's also... I mean, not all of the women we've seen so far have been these pencil basketballs.
Not all of them,
like mega hourglass figure ladies. And the reason for this is Oda kind of saves that for the ones that... I mean, he likes drawing them as background characters, just because it's fun for him to draw. But when it comes to main and named characters, he saves these for... In Nami's particular case, she's, in a sense, a bit of a femme fatale. She uses her looks very... She's wily, she knows what she's doing, and she definitely is more than happy to con some guys out of their money if it means that all she has to do is shake her hips.
Yeah,
so
she's definitely been doing that for a while.
So this is kind of why I give Oda, and really only Oda, a pass on this kind of thing. Because it's a recurring theme that characters, they're not universally either disgustingly ugly, like ridiculously beautiful, or completely out of proportion. Well, they're almost universally out of proportion. But he always tries to use his drawings to convey their characters. So at this point, Oda's kind of been given the go-ahead by Jump to start, because up until... You've got to remember, One Piece wasn't always the juggernaut that it is.
No, of course.
Skypiea is actually... Well, what launched it rocketing into fame was the Alabaster art. And, I mean, for obvious reasons, it's fantastic art.
Yeah.
And because of that, Jump went, hey, this guy's pretty cool, we're going to give him a bit more freedom to tell his story. So they stopped editorializing him as heavily, and that's why we see here an immediate jump in the drawings and in the way that the story is told as well. There's a lot less holding back at this point.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that.
So, yeah, they're now in heaven, pretty much. And
Yeah,
Zoro's
and,
like,
in the Viz version of the manga, they do straight up call it heaven quite a few times.
yeah.
Although, curiously, something I noticed actually is that whenever they refer to the god of this land, they can't decide whether to call him god or kami. They flip-flop constantly, and there's never an editor's note explaining, like, what it is. So if you're, just a random manga reader who perhaps doesn't know that kami means god, I imagine you'd be quite confused.
Yeah, and this is also confusing in a sense, because up here, God is not a word until recently. God was not a word that meant deity.
Right, yeah.
So in Japanese culture, kami, there's multiple Shinto gods, and the word kami almost refers to sort of a spiritual leader in a sense. Not in terms of like a priest, but like Jesus.
Yeah.
So here, it's not like that. It's less to do with religion and more a job. So they've got this image of heaven, and they've kind of rolled with it. So their president is God here. Except recently they've got a new god, and this guy, they're pretty convinced that he's actually God. They're real spooked by him.
Yeah, and as we'll find out, they have good reason to be wary of him.
Yeah. So they get to the actual island itself. They've seen it. They're like, "Wow, this is cool. Let's land." And they come across a cute little angel girl and her fox Sue.
Oh yeah, Sue.
And this angel girl, she's Connie's, and she's real cool. Connie's, she's a nice lady. She helps them out. She introduces them to angelic coconuts that you drink. Luffy nearly breaks his teeth off them. But yeah, she's real cool. And then she starts it. Her father comes screaming in on what appears to be like a motorbike. What on earth? How is this thing powered? Nami's really
a motorbike, you could say.
A motorbike. And this motorbike is powered by shells.
Yes.
Shells called dials. And this is a really cool device in the narrative.
Yes, I really love dials and everything about them.
Yeah, so up here in the sky, there's super special sea creatures that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And they've got to kind of have powers to keep... Because there's no ocean floor here. They've got to kind of keep themselves afloat. So they've got a number of tricks to do that. This device that they find out is called a waver, which... The guy that came in, Konis's dad, is Hagia. He's dressed as a bumblebee. I really like him. And he explains that this thing, it's powered by wind from these dials. These dials, they can store things inside them. And when you press a button on the top, it releases all of the energy. And this can be anything from wind to flavor to gas to sounds, even to some extent light and force. Like brute force, as in like you can smack it and it'll absorb that force and then you can release it later. And that's pretty cool. We find out later on that there's some really cool uses for this other than just making food and powering boats. But they invite them back up to their house because it turns out what Nami found, this motorbike that she found on the ship, is actually a waver. And it's a really cool, super special waver with an ancient kind of dial. So, what the normal waivers use is a breath dial. It just stores a little bit of wind, it can put it out again later on. What Nami's bike has on it are jet dials. And they're extinct, they've been gone for a long time, but they are super powerful, and she's a speedy girl on this. So she wants to get it fixed, and what do you know, Paggy is a good guy, he wants to help her. This is not suspicious in any way, shape, or form, they're just really good people.
Yeah.
So they bring them back to their house, but everyone's really scared of them. And no one quite knows why. And they find out why when a group, basically Heaven's SAS,
the white berets,
comes crawling along the floor towards them, because they're really sneaky.
Oh yeah.
And informs them that they still haven't paid that billion Extol fine. And that's like a Class 23C crime, that's really not good. You've
can't be dealt with that.
Yeah, you might as well have stolen some shoes or something. That's a punishable offence. So they've got to pay a whole, like, 200,000 belly per person, which is not all that much, really. So they realise, hey, we should have really paid this fine. But Nami's not having any of it. She's Nami. So she punches one of them. And it turns out punching the SAS, not a good move.
No, not generally, no. We should also say that before this, while the SAS were interrogating the rest of the Straw Hats, Nami was out on Pagaya's waver, just testing it out, and she came across the upper yard, which is a piece of land in the sky. Very strange.
Verth is what it's referred to here. And up here is really precious, because they don't get to go down to the normal world all that often, and you're gonna grow a plant when you ain't got no soil. So
exactly. They explained that you can grow plants in sky clouds, but you can't plant new ones.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different types of clouds, it turns out. There's like land cloud and cloud cloud and sea cloud and just a bunch of clouds. But this stuff Earth is particularly precious up here. It's considered God's land because this is a huge chunk of Earth to be just sat in the middle of the sky. How on earth did it get up here? So yeah, she discovers another waver there, and she hears voices. She's like, what on earth? And then they start screaming, and you hear a big boom, and they're dead. And she finds out that this was a voice dial that was left on the waver. And at this point she's pretty spooked out, so she rushes back to find the white berets there, and they now want them to pay 10 times the entrance fee. Making it a million belly each. And at that point, Nami's, that's really not
fairly
cool
inconvenient.
So, yeah, she punches the white berets. Well, no, she rams the waver into the leader of the white berets, and then Luffy beats them up. And this raises them to Class 2 criminals. Ooh, not good. And they're to be dealt with by the priest.
Yes, the priests, as we'll find out, are some very interesting people.
Yeah. So, they're criminals now.
Yes.
And they go to leave because they realise, hey, we're putting Konis and her father in danger by being here. It's not cool of us.
Yeah.
But Konis is like, well, you seem like pretty cool people. I met you like 5 minutes ago. Have my boat. The crew, they're all going to Konis' boat, and what do you know? The ship that Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Zoro are all on, because Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp. Oh, sorry, they're not going to Codis's boat yet. They're going to their boat to get the heck out of here. So Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp stay behind to get food.
Yes.
And then the rest all go to the ship. And the Super Express Speed Shrimp, that's what it's called in the manga. In the anime, it's just called the Super Express Lobster. It zooms them off. It grabs them, they're gone.
Yeah.
Where could it be going? Katniss says, hey, they're probably going to God's Land because they're naughty boys. So you gotta go now, you gotta take my ship, you gotta rescue them.
Yes.
And on the way, again, everyone's really spooked by their presence.
Yeah. Eventually the crew, Luffy and the other two, they realise that Konis seems to be acting a little suspiciously.
Yeah, she's offering them their boat. She's real nice, but she doesn't seem too pleased about it. She actually seems kind of scared. Why could that be? Are they intimidated by her, maybe? No, big ol' thunderbolts. So Konis tells them, hey, I'm not actually taking you to your friends. I'm taking you to get killed by God.
Yeah.
And that is considered betraying God. And in return, this guy apparently can just hear everything. And that's pretty weird at this point in the story.
Yeah, it is odd that he is that sensory.
Omniscient.
Omniscience, that's the word.
Yeah, so he fires a big old laser beam down at them. But she's saved by who else could it be but the guy on the bird? And he's like, hey, I'm a pretty cool guy. I'll take him to my house. NL, for some reason, he just can't reach there. Who could know why?
By the way, I love the visual that Oda uses whenever the lightning bolt is about to strike someone, where he does that really harsh shading from like above. Is a very, very cool looking
it puts everything into really harsh, like black and white detail.
Yeah, with these big, blocky, heavy shadows. It looks real cool.
Yeah, and it really emphasizes just how much energy is really coming at them.
Yeah, definitely.
So Oda has extrapolated on this because, I mean, you and I, we know what's happened now. NL, he's pretty strong, to say the least. Oda says that in terms of the overall world, if NL were to go down to the Blue Sea and just become a pirate, do what he wants, he'd be really strong. Because these lightning powers, they are genuinely fucking scary. You can move
being able to summon lightning bolts on your enemies is, that's tough to beat.
Being able to summon lightning bolts, being able to move at the speed of, nearly light. Well, it's kind of a fraction of the speed of light, but still, it's pretty
very, very fast.
Yeah. And being able to perceive things from miles around, those are some strong abilities. But he's not actually all that powerful in terms of the story. Like, there are many far more powerful characters than him. And really what it comes down to is that NL is just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So, Luffy kind of got lucky here with his being able to win eventually.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll get to it when we get to it, but yeah, Luffy is extremely lucky.
Yeah. So, they get onto the boat now, they're off to save the others. Zoro, Nami, Robin and Chopper, they're now on top of a sacrificial altar surrounded by sharks.
Yeah.
real Indiana Jones style. And I love this is again one of my favorite parts of humor in this arc.
Is it Usopp's rope?
Yeah, so they need to get over to land without like getting eaten. So they need to swing across using a vine. Robin makes it across real easy. She's cool.
Yeah.
Usopp, he's scared, but he's a man and he knows that if you go ah, you will definitely make it across safely.
That's the defining factor.
Zorro then does the exact same thing, because every single man knows that it is an ultimate truth that you cannot fail when you're swinging on a vine as long as you perform the call.
Yes.
And Nami, she doesn't do it, she nearly dies. And Zoro's like, well, you should have used the call.
Yeah, exactly. There's a 100% correlation here.
But luckily, Nami doesn't die because Robin was with them. And that's pretty cool. Robin's already... she's showing her usefulness as a member of the group.
Yeah. Despite being very good at killing things, she's also very good at stopping things from being dead.
Yeah. So, Luffy and co, they're now travelling to get to them, and they're travelling across what's called a Milky Road.
Yeah,
this is just it's just a river made of clouds, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
They have their own currents for some reason, not sure why. But, yeah, so they don't really adhere to the laws of physics.
I mean, you could, like, blow clouds around with the winds? I don't know.
Well, there's actually a reason that they don't adhere to the laws of physics, as we know. And essentially, what it comes down to is, once again, cept, sea stone. So, basically, the clouds, they have little particles of sea stone in them. And sea stone, it's some cool magic stone, it does cool stuff. So the clouds float. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, they get to a bit with 4 different choices. The Ordeal of Swamp, the Ordeal of Iron, the Ordeal of String, and the Ordeal of Ball. So Usopp, he's not happy about any of these. He's like, Ordeal of Swamp, and he pictures them sinking, and he's like, no, that's out, definitely not. No. Ordeal of Iron, too many things that could be, no thank you. Ordeal of String, he's like, that's not too bad. But then he's like, well, what if we're hanging above a chasm just climbing across a 5-mile-long string? So we decide to go with the Ordeal of Balls, mainly just because Luffy thinks it sounds fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're travelling along this one particular path now, through the Ordeal of Balls. And what do you know? There's balls.
Yeah, just a bunch of cloud balls floating around.
Big floaty balls, and some of them have got snacks. Some go boom. Some just don't have anything in. Some just are bouncy. It's a surprise.
Yeah.
And they meet one of the 2 most annoying cunts in the entire story. So here comes Satori, and
I love him.
I hate him with a burning passion, mostly just because I've watched the anime. He is a lot less annoying in the manga, because in the anime, the voice, and I mean, it's a perfect voice for him. It really gets across how annoying he is. But he's like, oh, I'm going to kill you.
That sounds amazing. How could you hate that?
He's such a goblin. It's not even a goblin, he's a gremlin.
That's a lower tier.
Yeah. So this is their first real their first named encounter with something called Mantra.
Yes.
And Mantra is... It seems to be that he can read their minds. And that's pretty spooky because they basically can't do anything to him. And he also gets one up over him. Over Luffy in particular. Because, hey, Luffy, he's a bouncy boy, you can't punch him, you can't really do much to him. But he's got these things called axe styles.
Yes.
And we don't find this out in this fight, we find this out later thanks to Gonfall. But these axe styles, they're like the rest of the dials in that they hold energy, but this energy is cutting energy.
Yes.
So you can like chop it with an axe, and then somehow release that slice later?
Don't think about it too hard. Just it works. It works.
But yeah, they managed to turn the surprise balls against him because turns out he can use Mantra to read their minds, but he's still a dum-dum. So he can't really predict where the balls are going himself. And then Sanji, he releases a brand new move. It's real cool. It's Concussor. Satori doesn't like it, needless to say. So while this is happening, Gonfall is explaining to Konis and Pagia about Shandia and the Skypeans.
Yeah.
It turns out that this Earth that came to the Sky Island, it wasn't always there, and it wasn't always theirs either. So the Shandians came with it, and essentially the second it came up, the Skypeans were like, "Hey, that's pretty cool. Let's do a British Empire on this."
Yeah.
So they take it. It's theirs now. The Shandians, they're not too happy about this, so there's a huge war now. And Dawnfall, apparently, he used to be God.
Yeah.
And he wanted to find peace with the Shandians, but just as he was about to, oh, what do you know, Lightning Boy, he's here now, and he doesn't like them, so fuck them. So yeah, now we cut back to the ship where Chopper is...
Actually, real quick before we get back to that, I just want to say about the whole war between the Shandians and the Angels. I really like. So obviously, One Piece has had its fair share of politics. What with Alabasta and all that going on, but I think this is really where Oda shows off what he can do with these in-universe politics, where he's saying like, okay, so what if who is in the right here? Is it the Angels? Is it the Shandians? Who can lay claim to this land? Because both sides have used it for hundreds of years, and I really like that there's no clear right answer to this debate.
Yeah, so this is part of Oda's... Oda has had a really long-standing narrative in his head. He pretty much knew where all of this was going from the beginning. He's had the ending planned out in his head from day one.
Yeah.
And that's allowed him to make some really... For what started out as a children's story, very surprisingly deep political criticisms in his manga. And one of these criticisms so far has been the Fishmen's attack on Nami's village, the racial tensions that built there. Yep. Another has been the ethics of a civil war, and already right out of the gate you're seeing he's tackling really important issues and difficult philosophical issues, and now we're getting essentially the battle between the ideas of ownership versus necessity.
Yeah.
Is it right to take something that you need from someone who already has it? And in this case, a lot of authors would be immediately they would immediately take whichever side they personally fell on, and this bias would show in their writing. But Oda's always even-handed with his dealings in these matters. He always gives fair time and fair consideration to each side, to the point where there doesn't really seem to be a bad guy in this particular case. And I think that's really cool in that this is essentially a children's story, let's be honest.
Yeah.
At the very least, at this point. This is definitely for children, and I mean, we talked about it with Greg. One of the best things that you can do for children's writing is to talk to them as if they know what you're talking about. To engage them as if they're not too stupid to understand. And Oda is a master of this.
Definitely.
It's one of the big reasons that the world feels so fully fleshed out, and one of the reasons that it's become the most popular manga of all time.
Yeah, I think it's very important that, that he shows in this children's manga that, sometimes there isn't a clear good guy and bad guy. Sometimes people just act out of necessity, and you gotta just make a call. And it's really good that he shows that.
So, with that aside, we're now back at the altar, and Chopper's the only one there. He wasn't
He's guarding the ship.
Yeah, he's guarding the ship. He kind of didn't want to go and swing over the vines over the sharks, so he's stayed behind to guard the ship. But hey, who's this guy? There's a guy on his own birdie. And he's got fire in his lance, and he's burning the ship. And Chopper's real angry at this, because what you have to remember is that Chopper is essentially a child. And this is, in a real sense, his first ever duty to the crew. So far he's tagged along, so far he's been helpful, he's been a part of the crew, absolutely. But this is the first time they've really relied on him to do something very important.
Yeah.
Even with curing Nami in the first place, a lot of that was doctoring. So he's hurt by the idea that he's failing in his duties to protect the ship. So we get a really, actually, it's not particularly long or exciting, but it's an emotionally powerful battle here between Chopper and Shora, the priest that's attacking the ship.
Yes, yeah.
And they seem to be, Chopper's pretty strong, and he seems to be doing quite well until Shora starts his ordeal of string. And the ordeal of string, it turns out, isn't crawling across a tripwire across the Grand Canyon. No, he has dials that shoot out clouds that are teeny tiny, but they're iron clouds. An iron cloud is exactly what it sounds like. It's really strong. So it's this nearly invisible string, and he ties up Chopper, and then Chopper's like, oh gosh, what am I gonna do? Oh yeah, we got this whistle. The flappy boy, he's gonna come, he's gonna save us. So Chopper blows the whistle, and here comes Gonfall and Pierre again. Sorry, PA, according to the anime. So, yeah, Gonfall, he actually kind of loses this fight, which it's surprising given he's the Sky Knight, he's this powerful figure, and he used to be God.
But he is also really old.
Yeah, he's really old, and this is... Essentially, the point of this fight was to prove that the priests aren't like Satori. They're not just gremlins who bounce around throwing balls at you. They're actually a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So they... I can't remember how, but they managed to save me shit. Now we cut to Zoro, Robin, and Nami. They're looking around. And Robin is doing her archaeologist thing. And I fucking love this. Robin is in her element. You can tell that she's really enjoying this. This is where it becomes obvious to the reader that she wasn't lying when she said that she only wanted to read the poneglyphs to find out about the lost history. She is genuinely a real historian at heart. She loves history. It's her great passion. And they find out that Upper Yard is actually part of Jaya. Turns out, this is the Gold City. And they're like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Nolan wasn't a liar after all, it just got shot up into the sky. I mean, you can kind of see why people didn't believe Nolan now. You wouldn't really believe that a geyser had shot half the island onto a cloud. But still, it's sad, because he's vindicated now. So, now that we found this out, we cut back to the ship. Both Chopper and Gonfall have been beaten, and they were left on the ship to die. The ship was burning. It turns out a flock of giant south birds saved them. So, hey, the south birds are bros now.
I guess.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Although the ship is still looking a bit worse for wear after, being attacked with fire.
Yeah, Chopper, he's a bit heartbroken at that, but he's glad that the ship's fine. Then we cut to the Shandians. And we cut specifically to a girl called Isa, who is crying. She, it turns out, has also got the ability to use mantra, and she's really good with it. She can detect people from miles around. A bit like Eneru can, although we find out for different reasons.
Yeah. Although the trouble with Isa is that she also can't really turn it off, so... So if there's a lot of sadness around, it kind of overwhelms her.
Yeah, so she's crying, and he tells them that both Satori and Gonfall were defeated. And Wiper, we find out there's this guy called Wiper. He's a strong boy, he's a cool warrior, and he is kind of the leader of the Shandians. Not really. He's their... the leader of their army.
Yeah, he's their general.
Yeah. So he's like, well, I don't really care about Gonfall. He's a bit of a dick. But it's real cool that one of those priests is gone now. This is a good chance. We can go get back our homeland. So let's go do a crusade, because that always works.
Yep.
So they're heading off now, and they want to invade Upper Yard. But while they're invading Upper Yard, they come across the priests, and Wiper specifically comes across Luffy. Now, he doesn't really have a problem with Luffy. To him, Luffy, the Blue Sea Worlders, that's what they call them.
Yeah.
The Blue Sea Worlders aren't really a part of this conflict. It's none of their business. As long as they don't interfere, he's got no problem with them.
Yeah.
So they're really just at this point battling the priests. But then a guy is defeated, a really important guy in their army, and this kind of causes Wiper to lose heart because they're very good friends. And this guy is Isa's cousin. This guy is defeated while trying to rescue Isa's cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Wiper orders a retreat. Luffy's like, okay, that was weird. Cool. So they just head back to the altar.
Yeah.
And what do you know, Nami, Zoro, and Robin, they've done the same. So they're finally all together again.
Right.
All on the ship. And they have a big old party with wolves.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, okay. They have a party with wolves about finding a city of gold. Makes sense. But
Yeah.
I like that Oda goes out of his way to portray the wolf, the leader of the wolves, as like a wannabe badass. Like he's just like, yeah, bro, that's pretty nice. Let's get drunk. So yeah, they party through the night, and they're like, well, we've got to take back some proof for Nolan. We've seen the City of Gold. Well, we've seen where it's gone. We think we've seen what is the remains of the City of Gold. So all we want to do now, we want to get some gold to bring it back to show Cricket, hey, your boy, he was right all along.
Exactly. Yeah. And specifically at this point, I think the Luffy saying, Cricket was talking about in the City of Gold there's supposed to be a giant bell, so if we ring that bell, then maybe he'll hear it, and that's how we can prove it to him that it exists.
Yeah, this is it heralds a really touching moment in the story. Again, one of Oda's big strengths is that his emotional writing is also incredible.
Yeah.
I also love how... make you feel like no other author.
Yeah. I also love how, initially it's just a completely throwaway line by Luffy just as they're walking through the forest. He just says, oh yeah, we should ring that bell sometime. And then when it comes back later and it flashes back to that moment, you're like, oh, like, he meant that and it's going to be important, and now I'm crying.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments like, I'm crying? Okay.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, we'll see a lot more of that in the coming arcs that we're about to discuss. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
There's some big cry to be had.
The biggest cry. That is actually one of... So there's two anime that I have forever told people never to watch. And it's not because they're bad, it's because they make you lose all hope. They make you so sad. So one is Now and Then, Here and There. And anyone who knows the anime that I'm talking about has watched it, they know why I'm saying it. And I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but the scene that we're talking about now is a very close third to these. A very, very close.
Okay.
So the party ends. Usopp, he's off to piss. He's got a lot of booze in him. But what the fuck? Who's hammering the Going Merry?
What is this shadowy figure in the mist?
Yeah, so there appears to be like a child fixing the Going Merry with a wooden mallet. And Usopp's like, God, I am too drunk. Fuck
yes.
So he goes back to the group, and But when they get back to the boat, hang on, the Going Merry is actually fixed. But
not only is it fixed,
it's not a chicken anymore.
Yeah.
How did the person that fixed it know that it wasn't a chicken? I think this is a bit silly given that the chicken parts were literally bolted onto it.
I mean, yeah.
But you can kind of see why it doesn't make sense. I mean, why would they not just fix it as they found it? Why would they return it to the original state?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're like, well, that's weird, but who cares? The ship's fixed. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So now they're off. They're taking the ship, and they're taking Gunfall, and they're fucking right off out of Upper Yard. Well, no, actually, the big Luffy, Zoro, Chopper, and Robin, they go to the city. The rest are taking Gunfall out of Upper Yard because he's an old man, he's hurt. They want to get him back home. He needs his nap, gosh darn it. It's 8 o'clock already.
Although, odd that they don't send Chopper on the take Gunfall back crew, like, the Doctor.
At this point, Chopper's already treated him, so you kind of assume Chopper's a super doctor. If he thought that anything was wrong, he would have got him. But
yeah, I guess so.
At this point, it's kind of... They need some muscle with them still. Like, Sanji's strong, but the other team, they already have Luffy and Zoro.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Luffy and Zoro are strong, Chopper, he's strong, but Sanji, he's enough. Sorry, I got that the wrong way round.
Right, yeah, I get what you mean.
Especially since they're going out of Upper Yard. And, I mean, we know Sanji at this point. He'd like to protect Robin, but Nami, she's a bit higher on his list.
Yeah.
So he's definitely going with her. Meanwhile, Wiper and Raki, they're in a fight. Because Isa stole a bag of dirt. Good lord.
Not a bag of dirt.
I've got a bag of dirt. But it turns out, yeah, that's actually kind of serious because that means she went to Upper Yard alone. But yeah, they kind of... It's not really about that in the end. Wiper's just worried because him and Isa, it's kind of implied that they've got a thing going on. Which, pretty nice for him. Kinda parallels the story of Kalgara and how he lost his wife. So he's now so protective of his daughter. So Wiper, he nearly lost Raki. Raki nearly got killed.
Yeah.
And then Isa went to the island all alone. Wiper just nearly lost two of the people important to him in very quick succession. So he decides, right, I've had enough of this. We're all gonna go. Either we die or we finish what we've started. There's no going back. And he says something quite... Again, this is Oda showing that he's not afraid to get political. He tells them anyone not willing to step over their wounded comrades to reach their goal shouldn't come. And that is...
That's heavy.
Yeah, that is very heavy. That's where you know that nothing is going to stop this now. This has become... This is beyond getting their land back. This is beyond... At this point, Wiper is afraid for his people, not just trying to reclaim the former glory. So yeah, they get to Upper Yard, and Wiper actually meets Enel here.
He does, yeah.
So first, Enel reveals himself and meets with the priests. So this is the first time we actually see Enel.
Yeah.
Or you said you read it with the Eneru.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
So we'll go with that.
Okay.
So Eneru, he's meeting with the priests, and he's saying,
"He's a big earlobey boy."
Yes, earlobey boy. So he's meeting with the priests, and he tells them that basically they're free to kill everyone. So he's turning this into a game now. He says, right, I know this many people are on the island, and I can tell exactly how strong all of them are. And I'm guessing, at the end of all this, there's only going to be this many people alive. So he never really says who he believes will survive. And later on, he kind of pulls an r/I am very smart, in that he's just like, yes, this all turned out just as I imagined. And it's like, did it? Well, okay, I believe you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, Luffy and the gang, they're off for the Gold City, but oh no, big snack.
Oh no, not a giant snack.
A big old snack.
A giant snack that, if I recall correctly, it makes a noise something like "jula la la la."
Yeah. So, this big snack, it eats Luffy.
Yeah. Just straight up.
Luffy just straight up gets nommed. So the rest of them, they're trying to work out where he's gone, and really the only one who actually cares about what they were doing in the first place is Robin.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she's just like, I'm getting to that City of Gold and finding out, its secrets.
Yeah, so we cut back to Robin, and we cut back to the Going Merry, and Gonfal's explaining why it was that Satori was able to do damage to Luffy. So he explains the impact style, and he explains it by passing them one and saying, here, hit this with a hammer on top of a barrel, and the barrel doesn't break. What on earth? So they press the button, the barrel explodes, and that's a pretty effective demonstration.
Yes.
So this just kind of serves to... So far, all we've seen the dials used for, or all we know the dials have been used for, is useful household items.
Yeah.
So
Small
this
scale stuff.
expands on the things that you can do with a dial and how they, with ingenuity, can be put to much different purposes.
Yeah.
So the Shandia now, they come across one of the, they come across the Flamey Ball.
Yes, sure.
And they're almost entirely, immediately just fucked. But Wiper...
Oh, I just remembered, Shura is the one with the moustache that looks like a cross between Waluigi and Sporticus from Lazy Town.
Yes, he is. He is definitely a villain. So, yeah, they're all immediately fucked, except Wiper, who manages to defeat Shura, and he uses a reject dial. And this is, in the same way that the jet dial is a much more powerful but extinct version of the breath dial, the reject dial is a much more powerful, extinct version of the impact dial.
Yes.
Except it doesn't just absorb the power that you put into it, it multiplies it.
Yes.
So if you put enough force into this thing, it's going to do enormous damage to whatever you use it against.
But you got to be careful because of the recoil off of it as well.
Well, it's not just that you've got to be careful. Most people would die from a single use of this. It would tear them in half.
Yeah.
So, Wiper, he's a fucking strong lad. He really lives up to the Talgura name. So they finally defeated this priest, so 2 down, 2 to go.
Yep.
So they split up. They're like, hey, I mean, we've taken down 1, the rest can't be that difficult, even though Wipers was the only one that managed to do it.
Yeah.
So, Enaru, he sends another priest. He sends the head soldier, basically, along with 50 goat boys.
Yes, I love the goat boys.
And they're off to fight. And Enaru predicts that soon there will only be 5 people, including himself, left alive.
Yes.
Sorry, I've really got to pee. So
Okay.
I would hold it if I could. I'll be back in a minute.
That's fine. Okay. And I will take this opportunity to get some water. Because, oh my goodness, I'm thirsty. Hold the fort down. Nothing. I was going to say things, but... here we are. Bongo Boris. You can be there. Can't even see him on the screen.
Alrighty, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, where are we? Are ye there, friendo?
Boris, you get back up on the shelf.
Boris?
Oh, hello.
Hello, who's Boris?
I left a guard to keep watch while I went to get water.
Fantastic.
Okay, right.
So, where were we?
We were at the part where Enaru says there's gonna be 5 people left.
Right, yeah. So, at this point, the warriors, they've split up, and then some of them are no longer with Caldera. Half of them, in fact, are no longer with Caldera. And they're kind of amped up. So, turns out, when you start a race war, people don't really care what race you are anymore. So these Blue Sea Wilders, they're not welcome on the sacred holy land of the Shandians, so... They come up against Zorro, and it turns out not a good idea.
Nope.
somehow coming up against Zorro, not your best choice, Bram. So at the same time, while Zorro's thoroughly pounding the shit, no pun intended, 36-pound Ahoy.
Yeah. Although, actually, interesting thing about Zoro's attack names, there is exactly one time in this entire box set where instead of translating Santoryu as 3-sword style, they just leave it as Santoryu. And I have no idea why they did it just this one time, but they did.
That's interesting.
There's a few like weird translation things like that, but they're easy enough to look past.
Yeah, whenever I see something like that in in an official translation, I either assume that it's because the translators didn't. Obviously, different translators individually will be working on the stuff at any one time.
Yeah, yeah.
So not all editors won't always catch that, especially if the editors aren't of the same first language as what the material is being translated into.
Yeah, yeah.
But generally, I assume it's because they intend for that to be literally what the character is saying, not like saying three sword style. He is saying Santoryu.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not sure about that one. That could just be.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, it's a bit of a grey area, like, how much of it do you translate, how much do you leave to, have its original impact?
Yeah. But yeah, at the same time as Zoro's beating the shit out of some poor Shandian, Luffy, he encounters Wiper again. And this time, Wiper, he's not having any shit at this point. He just wants to get to Eneru and get the job done.
Yeah, yeah.
And Luffy's kind of in his way. Like, not really. He just happened to cross his path, but whatever. I mean, Luffy seems to just be chilling with his big stick, which honestly, I can relate. There is nothing in this world that makes your heart more at peace than wandering through your woods with a big stick.
Yeah.
That is the essence of adventure.
Indeed. But then this is where Luffy gets eaten by the snake.
Oh, yes, it is. Sorry. Right. So, yeah, Luffy and Wiper, they're both pretty strong, but Luffy gets eaten by snake. So, Chopper now encounters the priest Gedatsu. And Gedatsu, there's kind of a running theme with these priests, in that they're all real dumb. They're big dum-dum. So
they're very
Gedatsu,
powerful dumbasses.
Gedatsu, he's got the Ordeal of Swamp. And the Ordeal of Swamp is basically just swamp clouds. So you fall into the swamp cloud, no matter how much you try to get it off, it's just going to stick to you and suffocate you in the air. And he gets blinded by his own cloud. Chopper plops him into the sea. Literally, not. It specifies. So I'm reading here the arc. Like, I'm referring to the arc synopses as we go along to keep myself on.
Yeah, I've got it open too.
And it specifies that he just doesn't just fall into the White Sea, which, as was explained earlier, there's sort of levels to the Cloud Sea. So there's the White Sea, the White Sea, and then for some reason the White Sea.
Yeah.
But no, Gedatsu, he falls all the way down to the Blue Sea. So he's gone. So yeah, good job, Chopper. Robin, she comes across this head priest.
Yes.
Not priest in terms of what we've seen so far, Eneru's priests.
Yeah.
This is sort of the honor guard for the president, sort of the secret service in a sense.
Yeah. The way they translated it in Viz is like he's the leader of the Heavenly Warriors.
Yeah, so Gonfall, when he was God, he had these guys. They were the White Berets. They were kind of the SAS, like the well, not the SAS, more like military police.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys, they're the people that you send in to get shit done. And the head of the Goatee Boys is a big fat man. And this big fat man, he encounters Robin, and his main attack seems to be just to throw his gut at anything.
Yeah.
So he's got the power of Chonk on his side. But
Indeed.
unfortunately for him, he chooses, and very unwisely so, to break some rubble, some rocky boys. And this, Robin's not a big fan. She likes the rock.
Indeed.
So she chucks him off a fucking cliff as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of that. So now we cut back to the Going Merry, where Eneru appears in person, and he's talking to Gonfall, and he's like, "Do you know what? It was cool being God and all, but fuck you all, I'm out, and I'm gonna burn everything when I leave." So Sanji and Usopp, they're not big fans of this, so they attack him, but he's Eneru, he's a zappy boy, so he zaps them. They're both unconscious. And this is where the trouble gets doubled, or in my case, the annoyance. So, Satori's brothers, Hotori and Kotori.
Yes.
And they are just like the egg himself. I really don't like them. But thankfully, Nami and Gonfall manage to beat some sense into them. Again, no pun intended.
Yeah.
While this has been going on, Shandia, the Divine Soldiers, they've been fighting. Isa, she's been coming to Upper Yard because she really doesn't like that all the voices that she normally hears, and that kind of it makes her feel safe to be able to hear everyone around.
Yes.
It's peace of mind for her. And now suddenly these voices are disappearing. It's getting real quiet. And this is really upsetting to her, so she decides to go to Upper Yard to find out for herself what's going on. But her waiver, it breaks down, and who comes to pick her up but Konise and Bumblebee Boy.
Hey.
So, I mean, what can you say? They're just both really good. I love them.
Yeah.
They're very wholesome.
They're very pure.
So, Hotori and Kotori are gone. Gonfall leaves the ship on BA to find out what NL. God, I'm just gonna say it now. I'm going to use NL and Eneru interchangeably here.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So he's like, well, I don't like the sound of burning shit to the ground as he leaves. I'm gonna go find out what the fuck that's on about.
Yeah.
So he gives Nami the impact style. And he's like, well, I can't come save you. I've got to find out what this is. But here you go. This, I mean, 50-50 it'll kill you, but at least it'll be you that kills you and not whoever comes for you.
Yeah.
So, Konise and Pagia, they come back, they meet Nami on the ship, and they've got a Milky Dial.
Yeah.
And it turns out they fixed the waiver.
Hooray.
So now Nami, she's got a waiver and she's got a Milky Dial, which basically means she can go wherever she wants. So she's off now. She's going back to warn the boys.
Yes.
So Sanji, Usopp, they're real fucked up. So Zoro, he's lost again.
Yes.
And this is something that will never change. In the same way that Oda's love for big boobs will never change, Zoro will always be lost.
Yes.
And the Southbird's following him because it thinks he has food. Luffy, he's still in the snet, and he's seeing lots of gold, but he thinks he's in a cave.
Yeah.
Typical Luffy, he's not realised that he's been eaten yet.
I see. He's so used to being the one eating, he doesn't know what it's like on the other side of it.
Vor is not in his vocabulary. So, Eneru, he's pretty done with this. So he decides, well, I'm done with this game, I'm just gonna flip the table. If it's not gonna work out the way I want it to, I'll just make it. If that counts right, I make the rules.
Yep.
So he goes and fucks up some Shandians, but accidentally basically nearly kills all of the Shandians at once.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's only 25 people left. So slowly but surely, his prediction, even if he's the reason for it coming true, is coming true. Eneru, he's off now. And he specifically states now, he's just out in the open with it, that he's just going to make it come true himself.
Yeah.
It's no longer a prediction, it's just a statement of intent.
Yeah.
So
if there's more than 5 people left, he's going to make sure there's only 5 people left.
Yeah. So, Robin, she finally finds the City of Gold.
Yes.
And she's like, wait, this is the City of Gold, but there ain't no gold. And also, Bell Worms. So, Chopper climbs a giant fucking beanstalk called Giant Jack.
Yes.
My goodness. Oda, I love you, but come on, man. Giant Jack. So he arrives in the final ordeal. The ordeal is the ordeal of a priest called Ohm.
Yes.
And Ohm fucks Chopper up real good. So the ordeal of steel, it's no joke. Usopp, he was pretty right to avoid that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's going to happen to Chopper? Oh no, but hang on, we're back on the Going Merry. Isa,
there's a lot of different things going on at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to understand when you're reading it or watching it.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have the narrative right there in front of you. You can just turn back the page if you need to read it. Or, it's fresh in your mind. But yeah, so Isa, she doesn't really trust the Straw Hats. So she tries to run away, but Nami, she doesn't want to let this little girl go out all alone. Nami's a good person, kind of. So she's off to try and help Isa, but what do you know? Big Snack, it's coming, it's ferocious, it's attacking, or is it? No, Luffy is just punching it really hard from within.
Yeah.
And not because he thinks it'll let him out of the cave. Like, he's not so stupid as to think that he can just punch through the entire earth through to the other side. No, he's just hitting the cave out of frustration.
Yep.
So, he's real angry, so he's punching the snack. Nami, Isa, Luffy, they escape the snack on the waver, and they end up deep in the jungle.
Yes.
No, sorry, not Luffy. Luffy is still inside the snack at this point. It's really difficult to keep on track of when Luffy is in snack time. So yeah, the South Bird is fucking with Zoro. It picks him up and flies him into the air. But there's a really funny scene in the anime, and I can't remember if it's portrayed in the manga in the same way. But it shows, like, the South Bird's train of thought, because the snack tries to eat them.
Yeah.
So the South Bird, it very clearly illustrates the South Bird looking at the snake, then looking at Zorro, and then it draws like a cloud, like a thought bubble of the bird planning, and it just decides, just drop Zorro into the snack. Maybe it'll leave me alone. So Zorro's now free of the South. And they're all kind of in the same general area. So, Wiper reaches Ohm's area, the person who's just fucked up Chopper.
Yep.
And Gonfall appears as well. And he says, hey, I've just been to my old house, and Eneru, he broke it. So he's probably not there anymore. So where is Eneru? Zorro, he ends up landing there.
Yep, after being dropped by the bird.
Yeah. So now Zorro, Eneru, not Eneru, Ohm, and Gonfall, as well as Wiper. The Chopper's still on the floor. But yeah, they're all fighting Ohm now. And Ohm's pretty confident that they're going to get fucked. And rightly so, to be honest, in a sense, because he's got this... In the same way that the other guy had the ordeal of steel with the iron clouds, this guy's got an iron cloud sword, which essentially means that he can attack you from any distance, and his sword is flexible, so he can use it like a whip. He can also use it to create a cage. He's got a very... He's strong in his own right, but really it all comes down to the versatility of his weapon.
Yeah.
It's a very good weapon. So, Nami, Isa, a couple of the Shandians, they end up here as well. Wiper attacks them for some reason. He tells Isa, get the fuck out of the way, like, you're not safe with those people, which I get, kinda, like, they are strangers, so I can see why he's worried for Isa. But Gonfall and PA, they come down to save them, and they get eaten by Steppers.
Yes.
So now we have Gonfall, PA, and Luffy inside Snake. Zorro, he's the super cool swordsman, he beats him. It was kind of a done deal from the moment Zorro walked in.
Yeah. And also, I just want to mention, actually, so speaking of Zorro and Mantra, so it's never explicitly said in the text, but I feel like maybe that thing that Zorro did back in the Alabasta arc, where he heard the voices of the stones and stuff, was that some kind of mantra thing going on there?
So, you're on the right track. So, during the course of the story, in any story, power creep is a thing. You have to have your protagonists progress in some sense, and when the story relies heavily on outlandish powers, the only real way that they can progress is by either learning to use those powers more smartly, or by developing new powers. So this is sort of a gateway to a later power. Mantra is a thing in and of itself. So the way Mantra works, and it is explained during this, that Mantra, it's sort of the ability to not read an opponent's mind, but their body. It's almost like the end point of reading body language. It's like the ultimate form of that. You know what someone's going to do by how they move.
Yeah.
Which is part of how Luffy ends up beating. So, but yeah, that doesn't really apply to stones. Obviously, how can you read the body language of a stone? But you are on the right track, and I did say to you before to keep an eye on that, because that would come up later. And this is part of that. This is definitely This is, if I had to guess, this is Oda either giving us an example of there being other potential powers in the world outside of just devil fruits, or Oda trying to build on in his mind on this idea that he had in his head but couldn't quite bring to fruition as he wanted it until the later part of the story.
Okay.
So this mantra thing, it will develop, and it's kind of part of it, but there's much more to this.
Okay, so it's related.
It's related, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, now that Zoro's beaten the priest, the final priest, all the priests have now been defeated.
Right.
One's been chucked off a cliff, one has been exploded, if I remember rightly, by Luffy.
Yeah.
One has been killed by Zoro, and the final one, I can't remember. Oh yeah, he got chucked to the blue sea. He got yeeted. So yeah, now that all his priests are gone, Eneru, he's here. He's like, "What's up, bitches? What did you do to my guys?"
Yep.
So Robin, she's like, "Hey, what happened to all the gold?" And Eneru, he's like, "Yeah, I took it. It's mine. This is my place. Of course I'm going to take it." Which kind of leaves you wondering, what does Eneru want with gold? It doesn't have any value in these sky societies. So what could he be possibly doing with it? Unless he
Maybe he just loves gold.
But Robin, she lets out a bit of a Freudian slip. She tells him accidentally about the golden bell. And Eneru, he's like, "That sounds like a pretty cool thing. I'm God. I want to see that. That sounds like something God should see."
Yes.
So we come back to the Going Merry. The goats tell them that Eneru is planning to destroy the Sky Islands themselves, and then gets fucking laser beamed out of existence by Eneru.
Because of course, you shouldn't be leaking God's secrets. That's not good.
Yeah, but this is a state secret. You can't allow that given away. So yeah, Paglia also gets yeeted. One of the top soldiers from the Shandia. So Konis is the only one left to go and warn everyone.
Yeah.
So she rushes off. She's like, well, all these angel people, but also all these Shandians, they're all going to be destroyed. So Konis is cool like that. She wants to warn everybody. She's not just worried about the end. Eneru fucks up Robin, Zoro, and Wiper, as well as the Snack. Gonfall and Nami get out of the Snack because of this. They accidentally leave Luffy, Isa, and the Bird Boy. And then Eneru electrocutes the Snack. Which,
poor Snack.
I mean, what did Snack do? Leave Snack alone. All it did was eat Luffy, and let's be honest, he deserves it. So he says, "Look, there's 3 minutes left, and there's 6 of you left. One of you's fucked."
Yeah.
So he asks them who he should yeet, and they all say you.
Yeah, they'll just point straight at him.
And Eneru, he's kind of full of himself, so he does the whole monologue of why he wants to destroy Skypiea. According to him, people living in the sky isn't natural. So it's his job, because he's God, keep the natural order. And once he's done that, he's got a dream. And that's another thing that Oda almost always does, is that he gives every single character, no matter whether they're good, bad, what morally grey, he recognizes that everyone has a dream. Everyone has something that they want for themselves.
Yeah.
And what Eneru wants for himself is to gather a band of true believers in his own gods and go to what he calls the fairy ver.
Or in the Viz manga, they translate it as endless vast.
Yeah. So this will come up later, strangely enough, and it's not a spoiler, really, for me to tell you how, because it's not really come up in the story yet. We don't even know if it will come up in the story at all.
Okay. I mean, I've seen the cover page story.
You've seen the cover page story of Eneru going to the fairy ver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Eneru, what he's calling the fairy ver, is actually the fucking moon.
Yes.
And he goes to the moon, and there's a society of moon pirates and robots, which he turns into his army. Which, I mean, fair play to the guy.
Yeah.
He's now god of the moon. So nobody really knows if this is going to come up later, because, in a sense, he's achieved his dream.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, knowing Oda, it could come back later. But...
Well, there are theories, because with there being space pirates, one of the more outlandish, but when it comes to Oda, you can't really call anything outlandish.
Yeah.
One of the more outlandish theories is that the reason that nobody except for Roger has been able to find Raftel is because it's in space. So at some point the Straw Hats are gonna have to go off into space.
You know what? Maybe.
And Oda has specifically stated that before this, because he said that, I mean, he's always been upfront, Luffy is going to be the king of the pirates.
Yes.
This is just how it will be. This is the story of how he became king of the pirates. That's the first words. So, before that happens, before he finally reaches the One Piece, Oda says that there's going to be essentially a big war involving all of the factions of the One Piece world.
Okay.
And by all of them, he means all of them. Everyone is going to...
Presumably then including these moon pirates.
Well, you'd think so, but then how can the moon pirates have a war with everyone else? It could only be if they go to space!
Yeah.
So... yeah. That's one of the more interesting theories, to say the least. But yeah, that's Eneru's dream. So now he's decided to destroy the Sky Islands.
Yes.
And Robin, she's not happy with that, especially since he wants the gold bell. And then something happens, and this is really good characterization. This is a good piece of characterization for Zoro in particular. Because Eneru, he says that he knows where the bell is already, and he attacks Robin. And he says it's because he hates manipulative women. Now, Zoro fighting Robin makes a bit more sense in the anime, because there's a key piece of backstory. Well, not backstory. There's a key piece of dialogue in the manga that isn't included in the... So when they're going to find the Southbird to help them get to Sky,
Yeah.
Robin and Zorro are alone, and it almost just seems like a throwaway line. But Zorro tells Robin that he still doesn't trust her. And that, Zorro, he's still not got any real reason to trust her. Sure, she's helped them out a bit, but he's not naive. He's the kind of guy who's not just gonna let that get her into the evil.
Yeah.
So the way that I see it, and that I think most people have interpreted this, is that Zorro's role on the crew is very steadfast. It's specifically, he is the first mate. He is the second in command.
Yeah.
Not only is he the first member of crew that Luffy ever recruited, but he's also the one that believes most solidly in the concept that Luffy should be the one in charge. He's the captain. He makes the decisions.
Yeah.
And this comes back in... This connects back in the next arc in... not the next one, not Long Run, because fuck that pile of hot mess. But in Water 7, there's a bit of a scuffle with Luffy and Usopp.
Yes.
Where Zorro is very adamant that Luffy put his foot down. And says that if Luffy doesn't make it clear that he is the one in charge in this instance, then he is going to be the next to leave the crew. And that's because in Zorro's mind, the captain the captain is not just the decision maker. The captain is the linchpin of the crew.
Yeah.
The fact that everyone has a captain to look to is very important. It's really what allows them to work as a unit. And that's very important for Zorro. So this is sort of the first time in the story where we really see that Zorro is committed not just to going on adventures with Luffy, but he's very serious about obeying Luffy's orders. If Luffy has said that it's fine for Robin to be a member of the crew, he has no argument there. There's nothing he can say. He just has to accept it and has to fight for her now. She's officially a member of the crew. He just has to treat her as he would treat any other member. For such a small detail, I think that really sets up a greater arc with Zorro. Because there's a big idea that in the current arc in the manga, there's a possibility that Zorro will leave the crew for a time. And I'm not going to explain why that might be. I'll just say it's for personal reasons to Zorro. But essentially, what it seems to be is that from this moment all the way... I mean, this is, 2004, 2005?
Something like that, yeah.
All the way to today, this moment has been leading up, potentially, to this one conflict between Luffy and Zorro.
Okay.
So, I just wanted to point that out because it's pieces of really, ridiculous forethought. To have this in your head 15 years before you actually make use of it. That is incredible to me. It really shows just how deeply Oda is thinking about his story, even back then.
Yeah, I mean, even just in what we've read so far, it is amazing how many of these things that were set up so early on that then come back later. And so, knowing that continues it's really exciting. Like, I can't wait to read the next lot of them.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we? Yeah. Zoro fights back. Tries to fight Eneru, but I mean, he's Zoro, but Eneru's Eneru.
Yeah.
But turns out Wiper has a chunk of sea stone.
Ah, that's useful.
Yeah, and he actually manages to get a really solid blow on Eneru using the sea stone and his reject. Unfortunately, Eneru has hacks, so the second, Wiper uses the rejectile, ooh, ow, my arm, it's gone, goodbye arm. I'm gonna fall down now, I'm dead for a bit. So the second the sea stone comes out of contact with Eneru, he uses his ability to restart his own heart.
Yes, that's such a cool moment, I love it.
It's really cool, but it really puts in just... It brings to light just how overpowered Eneru's fruit is.
Oh yeah, totally.
So yeah, Eneru, he then defeats all the rest of the fighters, and only Nami is left. And for some reason, he's just like, do you want to come with me? So yeah, she follows him, because, I mean, she's just seen the dude come back to life and fuck everyone.
Yeah,
so
it's either agree with him or death, so...
Yeah, it's one or the other, so she's going to choose one in the hope that maybe she can work something out.
Yeah.
So she's thinking, okay, I'm bringing my waiver. Hopefully I'll be able to escape. I mean, I don't know what she was thinking. He can travel at the speed of lightning, but I guess decent plan. But no, it turns out that was pointless all along, because, hang on, Eneru didn't want the gold because it's shiny. He was building Noah's fucking Ark.
Yep.
The Ark Maxim, to be specific. Mm-hmm. And that's a big boy, it's made of gold, and he's the only one that can power it. So the gold, he was using it essentially as a conductor, as wiring for the ship.
Yes.
And that is really cool. Like, as much as I hate Eneru, he's a bastard. And, I mean, I think he's a decent character, but I don't like him as a character, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But good lord, is that cool.
Yeah.
A big flying death ship. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
So, finally, Luffy escapes the snare.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, she's still kind of awake. She explains what's happening. And Isa's like, hey, I'm pretty good at that Mantra stuff. I can take you to him. So they go off. They try to find Naru.
Yes.
Back at Skypiea Island, the Angel Beach, Cornice is there like, look guys, you're about to get eaten to oblivion.
Yeah.
But everyone's still scared of Eneru. They think she's speaking out against him. They need to avoid her in order to not die. So she's like, okay, well, I need to prove my point somehow. So she screams that Eneru is not God. And everyone's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But no, nothing happens. No smiting to be found. And then they see, hang on, there's a big old fucking black cloud there. Oh, good lord, she's right. Everyone run! But the White Berets, it turns out, they're actually pretty good boys. Even if they're a bit heavy-handed.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately their goal is protection of the angels, so...
Yeah, so, I mean, they, like the rest of the angels, they really had no way to fight anyone. So their next best bet was to just make sure that the angels didn't do anything stupid so that Eneru wouldn't kill them.
Exactly.
Which, again, kind of harkens... In a way, it's a little bit topical. It doesn't really compare to police brutality, obviously.
No, but I can see how, if you wanted to read some of that into it, you certainly could.
It certainly... It speaks to how cops can become overzealous in their pursuit of upholding the law. They can take it too far, even if their intentions are originally good. And I think that's another good moral to impart to children, is that just because someone's good doesn't mean that they can't do bad things. And just because someone does bad things doesn't mean they're not good.
Yeah.
So, Luffy, he finally gets to Eneru.
Yeah.
And they fight. There's a really... This is the best drawing Oda has ever done.
I know exactly the one you mean.
So, I mean, anyone could have really guessed. I know that this actually did take a lot of people by surprise. But...
It took me by surprise. I didn't see it coming.
You kind of think... The way that Luffy's powers have been displayed so far, what it's shown is that he's stretchy, he has the properties of rubber. No. When he says he's a rubber man, his body is literally made of rubber.
Yep.
And that, I mean, lightning does not affect rubber.
No.
So, Eneru, I mean, you're going to have to put this face on screen.
Oh, absolutely.
And probably make it, like, spin around real fast and put, like, a wow. But, yeah. This shocks Eneru. He has not... Up until this point, because, obviously, in the Sky civilizations, they don't really have much contact with the Blue Sea civilization. No. And part of that is that they've always really gotten along, not through development of technology, really. They've always had this pretty overpowered system of dials, so they've never really had to develop technology like rubber.
Exactly, yeah.
So... He really had no idea. It wouldn't have crossed his mind at all that there is something that lightning cannot affect. And, I mean, really it should have, because Earth, like, the ground, but, okay. So, after he comes down from the shock of this, he decides, okay, because he's, to be fair, he's a stupid man, but when it comes to actually fighting, his fight IQ is pretty high. It's quite like Luffy, in that he's not particularly intelligent, but he knows how to strategize on the fly.
Yeah.
So his next idea is, okay, I've got this big staff. And one of the things I do want to point out is that it may seem silly, his design. So the reason he's got the big staff is that's actually a tool from Shinto worship. But then he's got the big drums, the big circle of drums on his back.
Yeah.
And that's actually a reference to a thunder god in Japanese mythology.
You see that sort of iconography a lot.
Yeah.
In Japanese media.
The idea being that the drums kind of... They're the representation of thunder, the sound of thunder. So... There's a lot of iconography actually surrounding him, including the big, long, strange ears, actually call back to Buddha.
Yeah, of course.
So he's got all of this kind of god imagery surrounding. So he heats up his staff with his electric, and he's zipping around. He's going this way and that, and he's using mantra to predict Luffy's attack. And the Arc Maxim, it's starting to lift off. And Luffy, he's punching Eneru, it's all doing good. But then Eneru attaches a big ball of gold to him.
Yep.
And just yeets him off the fucking ship.
Yeah, he somehow manages... I mean, I guess it's just because he's so fast, but he manages to melt enough gold to make this giant ball and then, like, seal it around Luffy's arm. It's great.
Yeah. So... now that Luffy's off the ship, Eneru, he's got the Arc Maxim making big thunder clouds. And this is a weapon he calls Death Pia, which is kind of silly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's Eneru, I don't expect him to name anything, like, cool. Although the Arc Maxim is pretty cool as a name.
Yeah. You got lucky with that one.
So Nami... she decides, hey, he does thunder, I do thunder, so maybe I can fight him. And she actually does manage to do a decent job for a little while. She can't really attack him. He's got nothing that will work against him. But she does manage to deflect a few of his attacks.
Yeah.
And then Usopp and Sanji wake up when they're on the Arc Maxim, and Sanji, he's immediately like, Nami Schwan! He wants to go rescue her. Sorry, they're not on the ship yet. He forces Usopp to use the Usopp to grapple them onto the ship.
That's right.
That's the official name of the gadget, by the way. You can't say it any other way.
Actually, I love how... I mean, we'll get to it a bit later, but in the G8 arc, when Usopp uses it, he whispers its name because they're trying to be sneaky, but he still says it as ah.
Yeah. So, Usopp's distracting Eneru, and you're like, okay, this is weird. Why is Usopp distracting him? Sanji wants to rescue Nami. So Nami's gonna jump off the ship with the waver. She's gonna try and go down and help Luffy get back up. Eneru is not a big fan of this, but Sanji, he comes in the nick of time and he blocks the attack. And he gets a really cool moment here with, like, he's standing tall against the sky in the background with, like, cigarette clenched between his two fingers, and he's all burnt up. But he's looking pretty darn badass there. And then Aru's like, well, I mean, you're just dead anyway, I'll go for them next. But then the ship starts to blow up, and it turns out Sanji, while Usopp was distracting them, Sanji was just going around kicking random parts of the machine that looked important. So Eneru's like, fuck, I've got to fix this. Fine, you get to live for another 5 minutes. Usopp, he's got octopus shoes, which he uses to climb down the side of the ship. And then he jumps off with Sanji. Eneru, turns out he's had a contingency plan for this, which, again, I guess that's pretty clever. He's not entirely stupid. So he had breath dials to keep the ship afloat while he fixes it.
Yes.
And now he's starting the process of destroying the island. So now we're back in Shandora where Luffy's landed. We got Isa, we got PA. They're running towards the beanstalk, giant jab.
Yes, because they figure, if we can get up that beanstalk, maybe we can either see what's up there or try and get onto the arm.
Yeah, well, Luffy's idea is that he's just going to run straight up it with a giant golden ball attached to his arm. So
Yeah, which surprisingly works.
no, it really doesn't. So Luffy runs up the beanstalk and gets pinged back to the bottom.
Well,
and then,
yeah.
While he's trying this stupid idea, Wiper, Zoro, Gonfall, they all wake up. They tell Nami, go back to the Going Merry, and she's... Nami tells them to go back to the Going Merry, and she's like, okay, well, Luffy's a dum-dum, he's not going to get up there on his own. I'll help him out with my wave.
Yes.
So, while she's off to do this, we finally get to my favourite part of this arc.
Yes.
And I think everyone's favourite part of this arc.
Yep. Absolutely.
So Wiper tells the story of his ancient honoured ancestor, and we've seen a statue of this ancestor in the town, the great warrior Caldera.
Yes.
So it turns out the Giants, the Shandorans now, have carried down this legend since time immemorial, because they want for one day the giant golden bell to be rung, because in their belief system the bell guides people back to the isle.
Yes, it's the light of Shandora.
Yeah. So he tells them the story, and good lord, is it a good story?
Yeah. Fantastic.
Feels.
Yeah.
So it starts with Mont Blanc Noland. It turns out he's a really strong admiral. There's a reason he was a famous adventurer. He probably was the Roger of his time. And he was a herbologist. So his crew's interest was going around and documenting new types of plants, taking care of the ecology of the islands that they go to. So they come to Jaya, and they see that the place is hit with just a ridiculously bad plague.
Yeah, the tree fever.
Yeah. Except it's not known as tree fever to these people. For them, this was a curse brought down on them because they weren't worshipping their snake. So the islanders, they're sacrificing people periodically to try and appease the gods. And Nolan comes along and he's like, right, this is wrong. I can't abide by this because I know what this disease is and I can cure it. So he marches up with his crew to the
sacrificial altar?
To the sacrificial altar. And while he's there, he sees the girl that's on the altar and that she's about to be sacrificed. Big Sneck coming to eat her. And Noland is like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna save you. And the people aren't happy about this. He's angering their gods. He's going to bring down an even greater reckoning on them. So out comes Kalgara, the great warrior. Kind of in the same way that Wiper is the general of his people, but not the de facto. Kalgara, he's the person that everyone looks up to most, but he doesn't give the orders. Like, he's just the one. And it turns out that he's been ordered to sacrifice his own daughter to these gods. So Noland, this is where they have a big moral conflict. And again, coming back to the political side of it, this touches on sort of colonial traditions back in the past where we kind of just went in everywhere and replaced their traditions with our own.
Yeah.
And this sort of goes into the morality of doing that when you know that objectively you are correct. Like, Noland, he knows for a fact what this disease is, and that he can cure it, and that sacrificing children to snakes isn't going to cure it.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you explain that to a society that's built itself around the idea of gods and sacrifices?
Yeah. So this is... Oda finds a really good compromise in that his answer to this conundrum is compromise. The way that he solves this problem is that Kalgara, he's like, right, well, fuck yourself, I'm gonna give you 1 day. You've got 1 day to sort this shit out, and then we're sacrificing my daughter.
I don't think we actually mentioned, Nolan straight up killed the giant snake god.
No, Nolan didn't.
Didn't he? Oh, he did.
No. Nolan hurt one of the snakes. He injured one. So, I don't think he killed it. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure he only injured it. So
it says on the wiki that he killed it, but...
Oh, okay. In that case, yeah, I'm wrong. With this 1 day to save the village, Nolan goes out and he needs to gather the ingredients to cure the fever.
Yes.
And suddenly, the ground opens up under him. He's got all the ingredients, but he's trapped. He can't release himself. Kalgara finds him and he's like, "Ha! You fucker, this is clearly the god's will. They're telling you you're a dum-dum." Kalgara stays with Noland throughout the time. He's basically watching him to kind of point and laugh, really.
More or less, yeah.
He's so sure in his beliefs that he doesn't want to let Noland even try to save him. And eventually, after Noland tells him to take these ingredients back to village, that here is the cure. Give this to your people. You will see that this is the cure. And then, out of nowhere, another big old snake comes to eat Nolan. And it looks like this is the end for Nolan, but in this last moment, Kalgara saw that Nolan wasn't looking out for himself. He was genuinely trying to get them to take the cure. He wasn't trying to prove himself right. He was trying to save them. That was his priority.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kalgara kills the snake to save Nolan and breaks down crying. And there's quite a touching moment where he essentially says, "I've just killed a god for you." And this is... this is the point where I think Oda's trying to emphasize that one culture doesn't really need to take over the other, but there needs to be synthesis between the two. Because at no point in this story does Nolan say, "You are wrong to believe in these snakes as your god." At no point in this story does Nolan say, "You're stupid people for having these beliefs." He respects their belief. All he wants is for them to accept that there are also other things beyond So Kolgara killing this snake is almost it's the ultimate acceptance, the ultimate trust that Nolan wants what's best for his people, not what's best for himself.
Yeah.
He's essentially just risked his entire culture in his mind on the off chance that this person is right. That's how deep this trust has been.
Yes.
So they get back to the town, and within a day, everyone's healed. And it's a massive party. This is a fantastic time for everyone. Nolan's the hero of the village. He's immediately best friends with Calvin.
Yeah.
This is the greatest bromance to end all bromance. Fantastic.
Fire forges the deepest bonds, or something like that.
Yeah. So they're about to leave the island because they need to go back to report, hey, we found this fucking cool island of gold.
Yeah.
And the Shandorans are like, well, to be honest, we don't really care about the gold. You can have as much as you want. You can have the gold.
Yeah.
And enjoy. So they're all getting ready to leave. And then before that, Kolgara takes Nolan to the most sacred place in Shandora. The place that all of their ancestors have been protecting for generations. And it's nothing to do with the Golden City. It's not even to do with the Golden Bell. They have had, for generations, passed down a poneglyph. And this poneglyph kind of forms the centerpiece for the huge tower that holds the bell, the light of Shandora. That when they ring it, this brings back all the soul of their ancestors to the island. And this is really important to the Shandorans. It's kind of the center of their faith, of their religion.
Yeah.
And Nolan promises, right, I know how important this is to you. I will never speak of this. You have my word. You've said that I can tell people about the City of Gold, but I know that this is off limits.
Yeah.
So they're partying, and then suddenly a villager comes in and says, these guys need to fuck off right now. So there's a huge kerfuffle. Kolgara immediately hates Nolan again. The island. Then they're regarded as the saviors of the islanders' lives. But for some reason, although they appreciate that, and because of that they don't kill them all where they stand, they still can't accept them in their presence.
No.
And they don't really explain why. And the reason for this is kind of explained that for them it was such a core part of their culture that they didn't even realize that it needed to be explained.
Yeah.
And this calls back to a really interesting point point about history and how we know about what we know. So, for example, what we know about the ancient South American culture, especially their religions,
Yeah.
a lot of it has actually been lost. And that's not because they didn't have writing, and it's not because it wasn't important to them enough to leave mementos behind. But when something is so ingrained into your culture that every single person knows it, there's not really, we don't really have a reason to leave evidence that curtains exist.
Yeah.
We don't really have a reason to leave evidence of Bob Marley. These things are just so ingrained into our culture that it doesn't occur to us that sometime in the future these will be an unknown concept.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same goes here in that, to them, what these people have done is it's so inherently wrong in their minds that they don't feel a need to explain it. They think, well, why wouldn't you know that already?
Yeah, yeah.
And it turns out what's happened is the crew, Noland and his crew, went out and they cut down a whole bunch of trees. And these trees, it turns out, were the original cause of the fever, hence tree fever.
Yes.
Except what was never explained to them, because it was such an integral part of their culture, because it was so wrong, was that these trees, the reason that these people ring the bell every day is that they believe that this guides the souls back so that they can inhabit these trees. So in essence, to the Shandans, to the Shandians, or the Giants, they've just murdered a whole swathe of their ancestors.
Yeah.
And Noland, upon hearing this, he's like, oh god, okay, I understand. I know what this was. And again, this calls back, this just emphasizes the broness of Noland. Like, well, not broness in, it's not a good thing that he's done, but he did it with good intentions. It was an ignorant thing.
Yeah, yeah. And he recognizes that as well.
Yeah, he's self-aware enough to recognize that he didn't have the right to make this call. He should have asked for help and explained before he did what he was doing, why he was doing it. So they pack up, they're off. It's a big bummer for everyone. But Noland, he knows what he's done it well. And he packs up, he goes back to his ship, and they're leaving. And then someone tells Colgara why they did what they did. And after the lessons that Colgara has learned, so in this, Noland learned to respect other cultures even if you don't think that what they're doing is necessarily what's best for them. There's you can explain to them why that may be, but you don't have the right to make the choice for them. And
Exactly.
Colgara's lesson in all of this was that sometimes maintaining your culture is not as important as maintaining the lives of the people that currently exist. Like, there may be something incredibly important to you, but is that really more important to you than the lives of the people that you...
Exactly,
So, both now realise that they've made a massive mistake. And Colgara, there's this big emotional scene where he rushes as fast as he can to the beach. And he screams out to Noland, but Noland is gone. So the only thing that he can think of to do now is to ring the bell. So they go and ring the bell, and that is fucking fantastic.
Beautiful.
Essentially, it's what's being implied there is that he's welcoming back Noland to the island. He's saying,
Yes.
You are welcome to come back. And Noland, he's very happy about this. Kalgara has become, over the course of the weeks that they were there, his best friend.
Yeah.
So he goes off, he tells his king, or emperor, I think it is.
Well, actually, I think right as they were about to leave, and Nolan realizes, what they did wrong. He says to his crew, "There's no way that we can sufficiently apologize for what we've done, but if there's one small thing we can do, it's to leave all the gold that we were going to take back with us. Just leave it with them. We will sail away empty-handed." Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Nolan, he goes off, he tells this fantastical story about a city of gold. The king is so impressed with this, he wants to go over there, he wants to see it for himself. Maybe do a little bit of pillaging. Just mind a bit of pillaging.
Yeah.
Which again, there are heavy parallels between the Spanish explorers and the Portuguese explorers and the South American cultures.
Definitely.
So when South America was discovered, it was known as the land of gold. It was a place of riches because it was everywhere. People had access to gold. Like, they'd been refining it, but it was just used as like jewelry and pottery. It was considered as common as clay, so it didn't really have any value. So when the explorers went over there and saw, hey, these people are just giving away gold, and they don't care if we take it with us, like, we can just come back. And then that was, once the Spanish and Portuguese rulers found out about this, suddenly there was a massive wave all across Europe to come and plunder South America. So this Oda always grounds what he writes in real-world events, in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to necessarily be real-world, but it can be tales, like well-known stories.
Yeah.
In the same way that Dragon Ball is based off of the Journey to the West.
Yeah.
So
Similar sort of thing.
Nolan comes back with the king, and to his surprise, the City of Gold is entirely gone, and so is his friend. And at first he's crushed with this, but he realizes that the knock-up stream must have sent the islands just barreling into the sky.
Well,
so,
Nolan doesn't realise that. He thinks the island's just sunk into the sea.
I don't know. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, no, I remember quite clearly. He says to the king, "Oh, I know what must have happened. It must have fallen into the sea."
Okay.
Because at this point they don't know about the knock-up stream.
Right. So, the... Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm just looking specifically at the story.
Right.
So...
So yeah, well, while you're looking up that, I'll just say another neat thing that I liked about this is that after Kalgara kills the child of God, the little snake, then a short time later they come across an even smaller snake, which is the grandchild of God, or the grandchild of the giant snake, and that one, which they eventually name Nola after Nolan, turns out to be the giant snake in the present day that Luffy got eaten by.
Yep, the snake still lives.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't say exactly what he thought about it in this particular page. It just says he was worried for Shandy's safety.
Right.
So Nolan gets labelled a liar. And essentially he's executed and left to the history books to forever be known and for his family to forever be shunned as the children of a liar. And that's a really sad ending for Nolan. I mean, the guy did not deserve that.
No, I mean, even his own crew, couldn't save him from execution because, that they were essentially silenced by, the King's Guard.
Yeah. So we find out, obviously, that what happened was the Shanlians got knocked up into the sky, and essentially immediately upon this happening, the bell rings, and the Skypeans see it as we've heard this heavenly sound, and suddenly a clump bigger than we could imagine of the most precious material, like a life-giving material, has just been delivered to us. This has to be the hand of God.
So they claim it as God's land.
Yeah, they immediately essentially do exactly the opposite of what Nolan did. So that's another way in that Oda gives examples of what you should and shouldn't do. So yeah, Kalgara, he essentially he tells his daughter his daughter tells the tribe the truth. And oh no, I'm at the wrong part. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm yeah. Okay, well, basically, the Giants, they lose the fight against the Skypeans. There's just not enough of them.
Yeah.
And the Skypeans have dials, so they didn't really stand a chance.
Exactly.
So they're driven to smaller islands, and they're left to essentially become a guerrilla faction. But all these years later, the tale is still told of why they need to get back to the island, back to Jaya, to ring the bell for Nolan to come back. Yes. And all of this now comes full circle to Mont Blanc Cricket searching for the answer to whether or not his ancestor was truly a liar.
Yes.
And Kalgar trying to reclaim his homeland. It turns out not for the glory of his people or to, I don't know, like reclaim their homeland. It's nothing to do with the land itself. The only thing that he has wanted this entire time, his dream since he was a child, has always been to fulfill his ancestors, his famous, revered ancestors' dream of ringing the bell to bring Nolan's soul back.
Yes.
Good God. Wow.
Yeah. It is beautiful.
Okay,
so anyway, Luffy's run out of the beanstalk.
Yeah, so back to the beanstalk. We dedicated like an hour and a half to that, to be fair. We might have to split this into two.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually. Real quick, I'm just going to pause my recording and restart it, because this only goes up to 3 hours. Okay, and we're back. So I think after we're done with Skypiea, we should end it for the night and then come back, in a couple of days and do Water 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Luffy running up the beanstalk meets up with Nami.
Hang on. I've fucked up my recording. No.
Oh. Okay.
Paused it by accident.
Okay.
There we go. I'll have to merge the tracks, but that should be fine.
Alright.
Okay, so, yeah, Luffy running up the beanstalk, and then Nami's like, nah, we can do this with the waiver.
Much easier.
So yeah, they ride up the waiver, up the beanstalk, but they're not going to make it. And essentially, this is... It goes to show just how far Wiper is willing to go, and just how ingrained in their culture it is. Like, rather than passing down the ancient beliefs in their gods, now what's been passed down, now what's most sacred to these people is fulfilling the wishes of this ancient ancestor who just wants to finally be reunited with the person who saved them as a people. Yeah. So in order to do this, just as they're about to fall off Giant Jack, Zoro's tried slicing it, Chopper's tried punching it, everyone's tried something. So
that's right, they're trying to topple the beanstalk.
Yeah, so... Oh, wait, no, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Am I, actually? I could have sworn.
I'm just trying to see now. They definitely do that at some point. I'm just trying to think, when do they do that?
I'm just trying to remember if the fight with Eneru comes before or after ringing the bell.
Okay, no. So before they... Hang on. Okay, so Eneru gets to the top of the beanstalk in his arc.
Right,
and then he unleashes Raigo.
Yes. So he unleashes this massive end-of-the-world attack.
Yes.
Angel Island is completely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gone. It's never coming back.
Like, there's just a void where it was.
He gets to the Gold Bell. He essentially, Nami realizes everyone is still near it, so they try to cut down the beanstalk.
Yes.
This is where, as I was talking about, so I wasn't wrong, thank fuck. Despite Zoro's efforts, it says it remains standing. And then Wiper finds out why Luffy wants to ring the bell.
Yes.
And Wiper realizes there's still an ancestor of Noland trying to find his way to the island in some way, shape, or form. And Wiper, he's already destroyed both his arms. Like, the impact style could have killed him. Sorry, not impact,
the reject style.
Reject style, yeah. The reject style has already... I mean, it could have killed him both times already. And there's a very good chance that it will this time.
Yeah.
But he uses the last of his energy, he uses the reject style, and finally Giant Jack falls over. And this sends Giant Jack toppling just enough that the Waver can ride up it, and they finally get to an L.
Yes.
Luffy... Well, Nami gets pushed onto a cloud. Luffy... and this is cool. Luffy flies straight into the Raigo.
Yes.
And his big idea to get rid of this, and to be fair, it works, is to just swing the big gold ball around really fast
Yes.
to try and bring all the energy into it and dispel the cloud. And this gets Eneru real angry, so he tries one last final attack against Luffy. And Luffy smacks him into the bell so fucking hard that it rings it loud enough to be heard in the blue sea.
Yes, like specifically he smacks him like with the hand that's covered in gold.
Yeah, straight into the bell.
It's great.
So, finally, this is like the emotional conclusion to the arc.
Yes. The bell has been rung, you know, Eneru is defeated. It's so good.
Yeah. Cricket now knows that actually there must have been, like, he realizes, hey, these big shadows, they must have been the silhouettes of people on the clouds, just the sun was cast across them, so they looked huge. And these people that he'd been seeing were actually the ancestors of the people that Noland was talking about, and they finally managed to win. And it's proven true because there's now a massive shadow of Luffy.
Yes.
And he starts crying. And he specifically says, not just because the city existed, but because Luffy was on it. Which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Even though his lifelong dream has just been fulfilled, he's still thinking of the person who fulfilled it for him.
Yeah.
So
I guess making fast friends just runs in the Mont Blanc family.
Yeah. I mean, a bro recognizes a bro, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Eneru, the Ark, they also finally get yeeted into the blue sea. Well, no, they fall into the clouds, which is important for now. Shandia and the Skypeans, they realize, hey, there's no war anymore. Shandia's fulfilled its grand purpose. They really never cared about the land in the first place. Yes, it's precious material, but it was never a materialistic thing that they were trying to gain. So there's sort of the post-fight, what would you call it, the lull, where everyone's making friends again and forgiving each other. Viper tries to convince the chief that they have to fight the Skypeans for the upper yard. But fortunately, as I was saying, Viper isn't the chief. Viper doesn't make the decisions. The chief is like, you realize you've just fulfilled your live stream. Nobody wants a war. We've done what we wanted. It's time to end the bloodshed.
Yes.
Which also comes back to how it can be difficult to let go of, even if it wasn't violence committed against you, and it was violence committed against Viper and his generation. But even if it wasn't, it can be difficult to let go of that past.
Yeah.
When someone spends their entire life at war, that becomes their main mode, and it's very difficult to turn that on.
Yeah.
So Viper's gonna have a lot of growth still necessary. But Eneru's alive.
Yeah.
And decides to just fuck off to the moon.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I've been punched into a bell. I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
I'm just gotta go to the moon.
I love that panel as well, where it finally reveals what Endless Vast is, and just like this massive full-page shot of just the moon. It's great.
So they finally find the bell, and they drag it out, and Robin's like, "Oh shit, poneglyph? Excuse me?"
Yeah.
And it turns out that the poneglyph. So we talked already about Crocodile was trying to find the poneglyph in Arabasta because he wanted one of the ancient weapons. And the ancient weapon that he wanted was Pluton. And Pluton's described as a enormous battleship able to wipe out entire islands in a single shot. So incredibly powerful. This poneglyph describes the location of the ancient weapon Poseidon. And it's not explained at this point in the story what that is. I can tell you that we now actually do know what Poseidon is.
Okay.
And you would be surprised what it is.
I look forward to seeing what that is.
It's a very interesting reveal. Shandia, they're like, well, we weren't really brought up with this spirit worship. The reason we wanted the bell was to ring it so that Noland could be summoned back.
Yeah.
The trees are gone. Our ancestors' trees are gone. There's nothing left to guide them to. So they decide we don't have to fight anymore. It's done. We're done fighting. But there's a gold poneglyph, which is weird. And it turns out that on the gold poneglyph is a message from none other than the Gold Boy himself, Goldie Roger. And, okay, so this is an interesting romanization here in the wiki. So there are 3 different romanizations of Raftel, of the kanji Raftel. One is the generally accepted just Raftel. Then there's, in some translations, it's been translated as laugh tail, and in others, it's been translated as laughter. Like the R and the L are often switched.
Raftaru. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So they decide they want to give the Straw Hats a big fucking bar of gold. And Robin's like, cool, sweet, that's nice. I'll have that. Meanwhile, Usopp's convincing all the Shandians and the Skypeans that rubber bands are the weapon that defeated Eneru. So he trades them for dials, which is, I mean, you can imagine the kinds of shenanigans Usopp can get up to with a dial.
Oh yeah.
The snap. Some of the pirates, some of the Straw Hats, they crawl into the snack again, and they steal a bunch of gold, and they think they're being all sneaky. Robin comes up with the pillar, and they're like, they mistake it for a giant cannon because it's under a sheet. So they run. They're like, fuck this, we're off. And there's a cool bit of characterization here with Robin. So over the course of this, we've been given bits and pieces of reasons to trust Robin. Also reasons to sort of distrust her in some ways. But there have been hints that she's a good person at the core. And this is one of the pieces of evidence to maybe suggest that she's good and belongs with the Straw Hats. because she immediately understands that if she was to just tell them that the gold, that they were bringing them gold and not trying to chase them away with a giant cannon, it'd take away the fantasy from them of being pirates and managing to finally, like, this is the first time they've ever managed to run away with some treasure.
Yeah.
So this kind of...
She doesn't want to ruin the magic for them.
Yeah, it just shows that she understands Luffy's childishness and doesn't want to ruin his adventure.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice little character moment for her. So they all get on the Going Merry. And they go to Cloud End, the bit where they can go back to the Blue Sea.
Yeah.
And they're not really told what Cloud End is. So, Gonfall, he's made God of Skypiea again, so the president's back, baby.
Although he is really old, so I don't know for how much longer.
Yeah, well, I think I've told you this before, but in One Piece, humans don't have the same aging process as we do. So, whereas we live our lives, we become teenagers, and then we get to adulthood around 20, and then we live to maybe, like, these days 40, 45 you can call middle-aged, and then we can get up to, like, maybe 95 at a push. Some people will get beyond that, but most will fall in. In the One Piece world, it is not uncommon for a human to live to 150.
Right.
There are some characters that are implied to have lived much longer than that. And although they age in a similar way, as in once they get to around 20, they're pretty much adult. And once they get to around, like, 60, they're pretty much old. Like, they've still got fight in them.
Right,
but they're aging at that point. They can still push on well past. They've still got plenty of strength.
Okay.
So, yeah. The Straw Hats, they weren't told what was going to happen once they got to Cloud End. So, essentially, Connie just tells them, good luck, and they fucking fall right down to the Blue Sea. But it turns out, there's the best boy, the goodest boy, the octopus balloon here to save them. And, good lord, do I love him.
Yes. He's such a good boy.
Especially, I don't know if you want to do this now, since this is the end of what I consider the end of Skypiea. Or whether you want to do it next time because it's quite late. It's up to you. I don't mind either.
Might as well go over it now.
Yeah, so I'm sure many listeners will be happy to learn that I have informed Curtis that G8 is in fact canon and nobody should listen to what anyone else says on that topic. It is definitely canon, fuck you. So, G8.
Yeah, I watched it earlier today. It's great, it's cool, nice.
So, in the original manga, what happens is they kind of just plop down and then immediately meet Foxy.
Pretty much.
That's really jarring. So G8, it was proposed to not only give the animators a chance to start getting into the next main arcs of the show, like to give them some time prior to actually releasing the episodes so that they could get things done. They didn't have to focus too much on these episodes so they could put their focus elsewhere. But the writers really went overboard on this. As far as I'm concerned, this is canon. it provides a really nice and really organic entrance into the next arc. Like,
yeah, I was really surprised with how well they slotted it in there, because, I mean, when you said, oh, they inserted this arc between the end of Skypiea and then Long Ring Longland, I was like, how do you do that? Like, what happens? But then, yeah, I was watching it and it just fits right in there. It's so natural.
It's more than natural. It's better than...
Yeah, it is.
I can't think of another instance where not... Because I can think of other instances where filler has been good enough for me to consider like as good as canon. But there's never been anything that I consider better than canon other than this.
Right.
Because there really needed to be something in between Skypiea and Long Ring Longland.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very jarring. So, G8, it's the 5th filler arc of the One Piece anime. So what happens is, in the original, they just kind of splash down, they meet Foxy, and adventures ensue. But in this, as they're floating down, the octopus balloon, it starts to deflate, they're kind of panicking, and sploosh, they're plonked down, it's nighttime, they don't know where they are, and then searchlights. They're in the middle of a massive navy compound. It's incredibly fortified, there's no way out. Yep. They have to find a way to infiltrate. And you can see from that there are opportunities here for comedy with characters like Luffy, and really cool moments with characters like Nami and Robin. Robin in particular.
Definitely. Yeah.
And to a degree, Usopp.
Yeah, honestly.
But we'll touch on that later. So, yeah, they're now in G8, and this is essentially one of the Marines' most fortified compounds. The Straw Hats...
ridiculously fortified, considering they barely ever see any action.
Yeah, so the Straw Hats, they disguise their... I mean, this is a bit silly, but it definitely fits with the Straw Hats. They disguise their ship as a Navy warship to try and get into a safe place to dock by just posting cardboard pictures on the sides.
Yeah. That happens towards the end of the arc, but, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
at first they just abandon ship and all go into hiding.
Oh, yeah, and it's considered a ghost ship.
Yeah.
So the Marines, they notice the ship, because obviously they're in the middle of a compound. Of course, they're immediately going to be noticed. So the Straw Hats, they make an escape, and they decide to infiltrate the base. So they jump some people, they take their clothes, and they get to work just blending in, quote unquote.
As much as they can.
So Sanji and Luffy, they pretend to be cooks. Sanji because he's a cook, and Luffy because he likes food.
Yeah, perfect team.
So they impersonate a pair of famous cooks who are supposed to be coming to teach the cooks there how to be better at their jobs, basically.
Yeah.
So...
the head chef of the base is just, like, not having any of that. She's like, no, you two gotta prove yourself first.
So the head chef is pretty much Sanji's ideal woman.
Yes.
She's called Jessica, and she's a really good cook. But she insults his cooking, and she challenges him to a cook-off. So, like a competition. So, the Marines, they go about it. They are really fast. They create really tasty meal. It's very impressive what they managed to do. And then Sanji takes all of their leftovers, all of the ingredients that they didn't
all the scraps and things.
And essentially, he uses it to teach them a lesson that when you're on the ocean, and this obviously links back to Sanji's character, which is part of why I love this arc so much, and so many people do, is that the writers really try to make it natural. They put a lot of effort into making sure that nothing was out of place and that everything made sense within the context of the story. Nothing was overly silly or just played for a laugh. Everything was important to what was happening.
Yeah.
So he teaches them his values of you have to use the whole of the ingredient in order to call yourself a good chef.
Yeah, you've got to use the skins of the potatoes, you've got to use the bones of the fish, like everything.
Yeah, and they're all really impressed with him. They're like, well, fuck, we're shit.
Yeah.
But that's really cool, because it shows the Navy. It kind of gives this, in another world, maybe we could have been friends vibe.
Definitely.
Especially when you consider there's things like, I believe Oda wrote a one-off where, or it might have been an SBS. No, I don't think it was an SBS. I think Oda wrote a one-off where it showed what Luffy would have been like if he'd actually joined the Navy, like his grandfather was trying to make him.
Okay.
So, there's, yeah. They get along really well, to be honest.
Yes.
Nami, she disguises herself as a janitor. She meets the real Marley brothers and gives them the wrong directions.
Yes.
So
that's something that I really liked about this. Is that every single character, affects the others in some way. So Nami, telling these guys to go the wrong way just to get them off her back. That means that they don't arrive in the kitchen. So when Sanji and Luffy get there, they pretend to be the chefs, and it all just ties. All the things tie back into one another. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Zoro gets immediately captured by the Vice Admiral.
Yeah.
This guy is one of... I mean, he's a fantastic character. Vice Admiral of G8 Jonathan. And he's a really chill guy, but he's a thinker, he's a strategist, and he's very intelligent.
He's a fisherman.
You can see... Whereas with other captains that we've seen so far, and even some vice admirals, a lot of them are stupid. A lot of them have gotten to where they are by brute power, by rising through the chain of command, just not by merit. And this guy definitely shakes up he's not the same as them in any way.
No.
So, Usopp and Robin, they end up in the same place. Usopp, he wants to run away. But Robin decides, actually, I'm gonna gather information. She's been a spy all her life. This is what she knows. Of course she's gonna try her best to get herself out of this situation. Usopp fucks off because he's having none of that. And I really don't want to call him this because it's so unfortunate. This poor man was robbed of his identity. The poor one-time straw hat that could have been. Special Investigator Shepard.
Yes.
So he arrived from Marine headquarters, and he was basically there as an inspector. He just wants to get Jonathan kicked out of his job, pretty much.
Yeah.
Jonathan's considered too laid back, peaceful. He's more interested in protecting the base than capturing pirates, which is his job description, but there are zealous people within the Navy who don't like that he's that late.
Yeah.
So, Robin captures him and steals his clothes, steals his ID, and assumes his identity.
Yep.
Usopp steals clothes and disguises himself as a Marine rookie. He finds the Going Merry in one of the docks of the Navy.
Yeah.
And it's not protect. It's being the shipwright in charge of that dock is called Mikau.
Yes.
And he is essentially just a ship, in the same way that gearheads just love cars. Like, he doesn't care who drives the car; it's just a cool car.
Yeah.
So he's talking with Usopp about how the Going Merry needs serious repairs. And again, this ties into the story going forward. It's very, very organic.
Because in the manga canon, the crew just sort of decides, the Merry's pretty beat up, we should probably go look for a shipwright at some point. But, here they're given, very explicit reason to now look for a shipwright.
Yeah, of course, Luffy still wants to get a musician first, but
of course.
For now, a shipwright would be a good idea. So, Lieutenant Drake is one of Jonathan's subordinates.
Yep.
And in the same way that Jonathan is a pretty clever man, so is Drake. He's obviously going to surround himself with subordinates that are of similar character. So, Drake tricks Usopp into admitting he's a pirate. Usopp tries to lie many times, but fucks it up.
Yep, as he does.
And then he gets taken to Shepherd, and Robin arrives, and Usopp pretends to be her assistant, and she just straight up sells him out, and they throw him in the brig.
Yes.
But coming back to what you said earlier, the actions of each of the characters have plot significance. Each of the things that the characters do moves the plot forward in some way.
Yeah.
So this works out for them that Usopp ends up in the brig with Zoro. And Zoro kind of rationalizes it to Usopp.
Yeah.
That
he's like,
hey,
maybe
you're safer here with me.
You.
But I can't say that at this point I think that is really Robin's motive.
I think she was just fucking with him.
I think really she did have the Straw Hat's best interests at heart, but she knew that if she was caught there, they were all fucked.
Yeah.
She's really the only one. I mean, Nami has experience as a cat burglar, but she's the only one with espionage experience.
Yeah.
She's got the brains, she's got the skill to get them out of this predicament. So Chopper gets discovered, and as is the running joke, they think he's a Tanuki, and try to catch him for good luck.
And they I don't know why, but in the subtitles, they never just say Tanuki, they keep saying raccoon dog, and it always looks wrong, and I hate it. Stop calling him a raccoon dog, it's Tanuki.
I mean, I know that a Tanuki is an animal, not just a mythological creature. There are creatures called Tanukis that, in when Romanized, we just call them raccoon dog. But it doesn't look right. That's not what is meant. They don't mean the animal raccoon dog. They mean Tanuki, the spirit creature.
Also, quick note on Chopper. So, something that, is I'd say pretty much 90% of Chopper's character is that he hides behind things wrong.
Yes.
But in this anime, the first time they show him hiding behind a tree, he hides it behind it the right way, and it's completely out of character. 0 out of 10. You lied to me, this is not a good arc.
Yeah. I can do that.
Anyway, moving on.
I mean, I'll accept it. No longer canon. It's done. How could they? So
we can just say that one moment wasn't canon. The rest of it is.
So he hides in a box full of medical supplies. Because he can't hide behind things, but he can definitely hide in them.
Yes.
He can't hide in
specifically a
something.
box full of antlers.
Yeah, so he's taken to the medical centre. All of the doctors have been called away from G8, except for one of them. A children's doctor called Dr. Kabato, who hates blood. She can't stand the sight of blood. That's why she became a children's doctor rather than, like, a surgeon. Is because she wanted to cure illness, not to open people. So, a shipload of injured Marines right then arrives at G8, and she's the only one there who has the capability to operate. And Chopper, he disguises himself because he's a good doctor, he's a good boy, so he decides to help her. And he kind of gives her this speech of, look, Doctor, you're the only person who has the knowledge. Because technically he's his ship's doctor. He has the obligation to save anyone he comes across because he's a doctor.
Yeah.
But if there is someone else there that can help them, then he still kind of has to try and get them to do it.
Yeah,
so
I think, you know, more than anything, he sees another doctor in need, and he's like, right, no, this person needs my help. If they're going to, you know, function as a doctor beyond me leaving this place, I need to, you know, build up their confidence and help them do their job.
I imagine it's partly that as well, especially since that's what Dr. Rean did for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, it's all in line with their characters.
Yeah.
So, Nami's now disguised as a nurse. She meets up with Chopper and also helps. Sanji is... he's still a dum-dum. He is very obsessed with Jessica.
Yep.
Jessica asks Luffy to deliver food to her husband. So they go to the room that they're told to do with the food. Sanji, obviously, he's keeping Luffy's hands to the food until they get there. They open the door, and Jessica's husband is Commander Jonathan.
Yes.
And he immediately recognizes Luffy.
Yep.
But he doesn't call him out on it. And I think that's a really interesting decision, because he must realize that, okay, look, Luffy has 100 million belly bound. Or berry. I suppose berry is the
they call it berry in this manga.
Yeah. So, Luffy has 100 million berry bound. Vice Admiral Jonathan, he's not a fighter. He's a strategist.
Yeah.
He kind of instantly realizes that there's no way that he beats these two in a fight. So, rather than try to do that, he sizes them up. And kind of slyly gets them surrounded. So
I love the moment when Luffy delivers the the food to the guy.
And just plump, plump.
Yep. but specifically before they even show Luffy doing it at all, the Admiral just sort of looks up at Luffy, looks down at the plate, and there's 4 meatballs missing. Looks up at Luffy, looks down at the plate, there's even more missing.
Yeah.
That's great.
So now they have to run because they're surrounded by all the cooks. The real Agent Shepard, quote unquote. They find him. He's been beaten up by Robin, and they assume that he's a Straw Hat. Because why wouldn't you assume that this naked, unconscious man in a hallway is a pirate?
Yeah, well, they got the real Agent Shepard's, doing her thing up in the the commander room. So
Yeah, clearly this guy who's been beaten up and left in the corridor and not reported to anyone is definitely not the real Commander Shepard.
Definitely.
But I mean, we all know that he isn't the real Commander Shepard now. Because, and I told you about this last time, the reason it might not have been in the show itself, in the podcast itself, but I told you that this arc, we would be introduced to the most powerful character in the One Piece canon. And here it comes. This is the grand reveal. Shepard, he's thrown in jail with Usopp and Zoro, and he's begging, telling me, please let me out. Just let me speak to the boss. I'm the real Agent Shepard. And Usopp, God bless him, he just needs to stand up for his friend in that moment. He says, please, Condoriano, come back to us. And just to see him come up with that on the fly. And then Zoro, like, the Marines immediately being like, well, that's sorted, he's Condoriano.
Yeah.
And Zoro be getting up, headbutting, saying, hey, Condoriano, headbutting him and telling him to shut up. Watching him slide down and go, who's Condoriano? And then just it cuts to Usopp's face being creepy as being like just the widest grin on his face, and Zoro just saying, "Please stop! You're creeping me out."
Yeah,
that is the perfect scene. I
it's
love
beautiful.
it so much, and that is the origin of the greatest meme within the One Piece canon. Con di Oriano.
Yes. I don't even know what the D means, I just know it's important.
The greatest straw hat.
Yes.
Truly the captain until he tragically lost his memory. He's not the same Condoriano I knew. Oh. Right, so Luffy and Sanji, they've figured out Zoro's in jail, they go to free him, but Jonathan, he's a smart boy, and they're not, so he's set up an ambush. So they get there, they're surrounded, Luffy can't break the bars because they're made of stone.
Yes.
So Usopp and Sanji blow up the prison cell, and then Zoro and Luffy run off with it.
Yeah, they blow it up using one of the dials that Usopp had in his pocket.
They go across a huge bridge. This is great. They're attacked by a group of Marines called the Hot Wind Marines. I love that pun. They're full of hot wind. They're shit. But yeah, so Robin, she's heading toward where they're going Marias. Luffy, Usopp, Zoro, Sanji, they get there, and Jonathan, I mean, why wouldn't Jonathan? He's a smart boy. Of course he's got people protecting the ship. So there's no way, like, they're outnumbered, and then Luffy gets trapped in a sea stone net.
Yes.
Which have actually been portrayed within the... I can't remember if they've been portrayed within the manga yet, but they have been portrayed within the anime.
Okay.
So...
It didn't seem out of place, I just figured, like, yeah, they probably would make nets out of that.
Well, the reason some people find it unreasonable is that sea stone is supposed to be a very... It's not that it's rare. It's that there is a very specific set of people who are capable of doing anything with it. Right. And I'm not talking about like a species. I'm talking about like there are maybe 5 people who know what to do with this shit.
Right,
So,
right.
Chopper, Nami, they arrive with Dr. Kabato,
Yep.
and they use her as hostage to get on board. Macau, he releases the Going Merry.
Yeah. They also pretend that Nami's a hostage as well, because nobody knows who Nami is.
Yeah, true. It turns out Macau is Kabato's father, which is a nice little plot twist. I like it.
Yeah.
Because both of them are like the two people
They're
who've
pretty
shown
chill.
kindness so far,
Yeah.
and no interest in being a marine, more an interest in helping people or being useful.
Yeah, yeah. They just have a passion for what they do.
Yeah. So Drake, one of Drake's guys grabs Kabato, but because Nami's dressed like a nurse, the Marines still think they have a hostage, so they let him go.
Yep.
Robin turns up with a map of the base, and they go hide the Going Merry in an abandoned plot, because there's a bunch of them.
Well, okay, so actually, I've noticed the wiki does skip over a little bit here, in that before they go to hide in the abandoned
They
dock.
go to a swampy bit, don't they?
Yeah. So what happens is they try to escape. They deflect some of the cannon balls off of the turrets into the sea gate that's blocking their way out, and in blowing it up, they cause this huge upswell of dust and stuff, which makes it all foggy. And as they're about to leave, they realize, oh crap, they took all our gold.
Yes. And as pirates, they can't allow that.
No. So under the cover of the fog, they sail back in and find that abandoned dock.
So, Nami and Sanji, they... wait, no, sorry. This is a little bit later on. They split the crew, so one team is off to get the treasure, and the other is off to get Nami's waiver.
Yeah, because they remember
Chopper is
that
once
that
again
other as well.
Yeah, and Chopper is once again left behind to guard the Merry.
Yes.
So Jonathan tricks the part of the crew that was off to get the gold. So they immediately head for the vault.
Yeah,
and Jonathan, he's a tricky trickster. He stole the gold in the first place to give them a reason to come back. And this is, again, it's one of the few times that a villain isn't a villain, and also one of the few times that I guess you could call him an antagonist, although technically, I guess he would be the hero and they would be the anti-heroes. There's no real wrong person in this dynamic.
Yeah.
So, anyway, he knew that they'd want to come back for the gold, so he put it in the vault, and I mean, where else would you put gold but a vault? So that's obviously where they're going to head first. So he's made yet another ambush, and this time it's looking real bad. And then, oh, poor Condoriano, that knock on the head must have made you so dumb. Because he comes in and fucking fires a massive a bazooka at them.
Well,
and that
first
allows...
he fires it behind himself because he's got it on backwards.
Yes.
And then Robin just messes with him, like, keeps turning it backwards.
My poor boy, what have they done to you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he could have stopped them with just a single fist. So that lets Luffy, Robin, Zoro, and Usopp escape. They manage to get out.
Yes.
Nami and Sanji, they managed to get the waiver, which the Marines didn't really understand the significance of. So they didn't really think to guard it. Or at least not as heavily as the gold. They thought that they'd be...
As far as I can tell, the Marines never actually found the waiver. Nami just left it in the grass.
Oh, yeah. So, Sanji and Chopper, they take the ship out and they wait for the others.
Yes.
She goes looking for Luffy. She finds out they still don't have the gold. So, Nami, she's So, in an SBS, it was asked who the smartest people in the One Piece canon are so far. So, what Oda said was that in the East Blue, Nami was the second most intelligent person, and Captain Kuro was actually the third most intelligent. So Nami is actually... There's a very good basis in the story, in the canon, for Nami being able to kind of work on par with Jonathan in his scheming. So she figures maybe it's in the commander's office. Maybe, I mean, if he's figured that they'd go straight for the vault, he's going to put it in somewhere else that he can guarantee is relatively well guarded. So her and Luffy, they go off to get the gold. Everyone else goes back to the boat. On the waiver, her and Luffy, they go up the mountain, they break into Jonathan's office. Marines are there, but what Jonathan didn't expect, and again, the only real reason that Jonathan loses at all here, and I really like this, is that he had a lack of information. So, from the beginning of this, the reason the Straw Hats were able to succeed isn't because they were stronger than them particularly, because there were many points where the Marines had the upper hand.
Yeah.
It wasn't even because they were smarter than them particularly. It's because there was an economy of information, and they had that on their side. They had a slight advantage in having Robin on the inside gathering information during the whole build-up. And they also had sort of the element of surprise in that the Marines didn't even know how they got in the first place. Which, again, aids in their escape. So they grabbed the... they didn't realise, Jonathan couldn't have taken into account, that Nami would be able to zap them all with thunder.
Yes.
That's just not something that you can plan for. So they grab the treasure, they head back to the ship. Jonathan isn't worried. He says at 9 PM, fangs of G8 will appear.
Yes.
And it turns out, so when Robin was gathering information, she was particularly interested in the logs of ships coming and going. And she noticed a discrepancy in that ships would only enter and leave the base at certain times. And obviously that doesn't really make sense, because you can't time exactly when you're going to arrive somewhere on the ocean. It doesn't work like that. So it's strange that unless you're making ships wait to enter the building, why would they only be entering at a certain... So what happens is that the reason that G8 is such a powerful stronghold for the Marines is that the entire cone that it's surrounding is what's the word? A tidal lake. Yeah. So as the tide leaves, the water becomes so shallow that any ships become stranded. So this Robin realizes is why ships can only come and go at certain times, because as the moon rises and falls, the tides rise and fall.
Yeah.
So the Merry's stuck, and the Marines are on the... Usopp...
It's a very fast tide for them to, immediately run aground.
You say that, but places like Cornwall... so it's not that the tide is fast, it's that the reef, or... it says that it's a reef in this wiki, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
The bottom of the ocean is flat in this particular part of in this particular cove.
Yeah,
so
and they did say it was quite shallow water, so yeah.
Yeah, so all the water rushes out quite quickly because there's not much water in there to begin with.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the reason that they finally managed to escape here, and again, it's all because of this information economy. So they've got dials, which are completely foreign technology to most of the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
A few dials have made their way to the Blue Sea here and there, but they're very much a novelty.
Yeah.
So Usopp's got an impact dial, and Luffy's got the octopus that the Straw Hats managed to float in on.
Yeah.
So
Luffy's been hiding it in his trousers.
In his pants. Not even specifically. Not even his trousers. Specifically in his pants. For Americans' underwear.
Does Luffy even wear underwear?
I mean, you get to see it sometimes. I don't know why. Yes, he does.
Okay.
So they use a breath dial and a flame dial, and essentially using a big blast from the impact dial to push them off into the air, and then using the lift to from the balloon octopus to
essentially make
create
a hot air
balloon.
balloon.
Yeah. They go over the cliffs, and there's one final danger for them here. There's one final possible stumbling block. Shepard has a secret weapon in that the entire fucking base it's just lined with cannons. So cannon is in range and it's about to fire at them, and then who comes along to save the Straw Hats but their good old buddy Condoriano and his rocket launcher?
Yes.
Who accidentally shoots the cannon.
Accidentally.
Very accidental. I mean, salute to the hero.
Yes.
Perfect.
So yep, he saves the day, and for them, it's plain sailing then.
Yeah. And then we get to the worst arc in all of One Piece, but we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, I think we can save that. Oh dear. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to put these two together into one episode of the show, or if we're going to split them into two.
Honestly, I think having the box sets all as one episode is a bit ambitious.
Yeah, it kind of is. So, yeah, I guess we'll record the next episode fairly soon and get to talking about that. But for now, this is the end of Gathered Crew Episode 2. Goodbye gozaimasu, me hearties.
Goodbye gozaimasu!
That's not my joke, I forget who said it, but it... Yeah. See you.